Good evening. In compliance with Chapter 551 Open Meetings of the Texas Government Code as amended, I call to order a meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Monday, December 16th, 2019 at 6:03 p.m. The board may meet in closed session to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, a negotiated contract for a prospective gift or donation to the district, commercial or financial information that the board has received from a business prospect or offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect, deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices, and or to consult with legal counsel regarding pending or contemplated litigation or a settlement offer or on a matter which the school district's legal counsel determines should be confidential, including discussion with district general counsel regarding the options for decisions and contracting for special counsel to the board in accordance with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, and 551.071, respectively. We will move to the approval of the agenda. Secretary Ellens, do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion by Secretary Ellens and a second by Trustee Teisch to approve the agenda, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously by all those on the dais. Without objection from trustees, we will now recess the open meeting at 6:04 p.m. and move to executive session in the board office. Thank you. Good evening. We will now reconvene the open meeting at 7:31 p.m. Tonight, students from Kasurik Elementary School will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag.
Good evening. I'm Heather Parmalee, the proud principal of Kasurik Elementary, and I have brought some of our outstanding koalas this evening to lead us in the pledge. I'd like to introduce Izzy Ann Chando and Wyatt Bracewell, Holly Herman. I would like to introduce Ebony Hicks, Liam Oliveras, Sophia Oliveras, Cassidy Walter, and my amazing counselor has joined us this evening. This is Angela Vera. I'd like to take just 1 second while I have your ear to brag on her. She recently found out, yesterday I believe, that she had been awarded one of 8 of the CREST Award from the state of Texas for outstanding counseling, one of 8 elementary schools here in Austin. So, at this time, I'd like to ask everyone to stand and join us for the pledges.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jura lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank you so much for leading us in the pledge. Will you please come forward so we can meet you?
I don't know what else I know.
too. I thought for sure. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. You're amazing. I love those. I love your leaders. Thanks so much. The private school was classic. All those amazing dance moves. I thought for sure, right? All right, sounds good.
Yeah, that's what it. Go ahead. You want to do it? Do it. We'd also like to recognize the parents of the students. We want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come down and we would love for you to stay till the end of the meeting. However, we know that your students have some homework probably to do, and so we thank you again for being here tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Tonight, we have 2 announcements and 4 recognitions. And before I turn it over to Dr. Cruz for one announcement, I just want to make this announcement. This is our last scheduled board meeting to be held at Caruth Administration Center forever. Due to the need to move the district audiovisual equipment and the AISD TV equipment, we will hold our next meeting, a board information session, on January 13, 2020 at the AISD Performing Arts Center. Our regular board meeting on January 27th will then be held at the new headquarters at 4000 South IH 35 in the new board auditorium once the TV equipment has been set up. And this will then be the home of the future board meetings for the Austin Independent School District Board of Trustees. Dr. Cruz, we'll begin with the winter break announcement.
Absolutely. So we'll have a winter break announcement, but students, you do have to come back to school tomorrow. So I know you're still taking finals and all, so we still have a full week of school left. I want to make sure that we just recognize all the great work that goes on in the school district, amazing work, and it's all for our students. Proud of the work that we've done, but we know we're not there yet. But in this time, just to sort of bring back some of the way we started the school year, making ground on new schools this next semester. We're going to be opening up 3 brand new modernized schools. It was just a joy to go see Menchaca Elementary School last week. Today we toured T.A. Brown Elementary School as a new modernized site, which both of those will open up in January. And then in February, we're going to have our brand new Go Valley Elementary School. So really excited about these opportunities. And then, of course, 4 more come the next school year, which will be really exciting. All this for our students to make sure we're providing the best opportunities around teaching and learning. We also started off this year with the largest raise in the history of this of our school district, with a $48 million raise to our employees who have deserved that over time. We're fortunate that this year we're able to do that, provide raises for all of our staff across the board. To all of our staff members, thank you so much for what you do for our students every single day. I know sometimes in education, it's fun, it's exciting, and it's challenging. And sometimes our teachers and our principals, our school staff, and our district staff who work so hard don't get that recognition. Believe me, I see your leadership every single day. I see the great work that you do for our students every single day. And for that, I am so proud of the work you've done for our students every single day, having more opportunities, more access and opportunity for our students, and that's what it's all about. So I thank you for that work. During this time, we always put our families probably second, third, fourth down the list. Want to make sure that all of our staff members take care of yourselves, reacquaint yourselves with your families, get to know them again. You got a raise, so go out and invest a little bit of that too, right? Buy some, enjoy some time with your family. But from me, from our board members, thank you so much for all of our staff members, everything you do for our students every single day. It makes such a difference, and I recognize it every day. Thank you. So with that, we can pop, sure. Okay. Now remember, you have to come back. I don't know, I'm looking at high school students in front of me, right? I know. Probably all the elementary kids are thinking, is school over? It's not. You got to have another week. Now's the point. No, it's actually you're next.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. Our first recognition is a board proclamation in tribute to Mr. Richard Tuttle. And I understand the Tuttle family is here tonight, and I want to recognize Trustee Matthias with the proclamation.
Before I read this proclamation, I'd like to ask trustees a question. When the waiter comes to your table and asks you what you'd like to drink, how do you respond? My answer is always water with lemon on the side. I could order water, but there's something about what that lemon does to the water. You're probably wondering where these lemons come from. We thank Mrs. Tuttle and her son for these lemons which come from Mr. Tuttle's lemon tree. Mr. Tuttle would have celebrated his 79th birthday tomorrow, and we are so honored, Mrs. Tuttle, that you and your son are able to be here with us this evening. So I invite all of our trustees to hold the lemon tall while we have this proclamation in honor of Mr. Tuttle. Whereas the Austin community recently lost a compassionate and kind-hearted member of our community, Richard Tuttle, a crossing guard who was 78, was said to be a wonderful man by many of the students he helped each school day, and his smile and his friendly wave to everyone that passed by will be missed. And whereas the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District wishes to honor the memory of Mr. Tuttle, his passion and service to the youth and their families will be greatly missed. And whereas after over 15 years of service to his community, his positivity and his never-ending smile brought light, especially to the Mendez Middle School Mavericks. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Austin Independent School District Board of Trustees hereby approves this proclamation as a lasting tribute to Mr. Richard Tuttle for his service to the AISD community, its students and families, and for his contributions that touched so many lives in such positive and meaningful ways. So moved.
Second.
So we no longer have to vote on board proclamations, but
There we go.
but in this case, yeah, on this case, I think we all said aye with the raising of the lemons.
There we go.
I was wondering if the family might stand up so that we can recognize them and thank them again for their husband's service. Thank you again. Our next item is to recognize Bowie High School's outdoor performing ensemble achievements. Dr. Cruz.
Thank you, President Rodriguez and board members. As Dr. Shapiro comes forward for our first recognition, this is a time where we talk about hashtag AISD game changers. And when we look at game changers, we certainly look at academics and academic achievement, and we're going to be recognizing our leadership and our schools, our teachers for that academic achievement. But this is Austin. We do it the Austin way. So we're very much a fine arts district. We believe in the fine arts. We believe in the value of fine arts and athletics. So we provide students with the opportunity so they can demonstrate their genius. There are many, many different groups that we can recognize today, but today we have two. We're going to start off with Bowie High School, and I'll turn this over to Dr. Shapiro.
Good evening, President Rodriguez, members of the Board of Trustees, and Dr. Cruz. The Bowie High School Marching Band had an outstanding marching season this fall. They finished as finalists at every contest they entered, which includes a first-place finish at the Waco Regional Bands of America competition, where they were named champions. At the Bands of America Super Regional in San Antonio, the Bowie Band made the finals while competing against the best bands in the nation, earning them the ranking of number 19 in the nation. Representing the Bowie High School Band tonight are drum majors Alyssa Baldwin, there you go, Sarah
We're
Brown.
going to ask if you'll step a little bit closer to Dr. Shapiro so we can get you on camera.
Yes.
All right? But nobody stand behind him because then we can't see him there. So everybody just line up right next to him. Come on up. There we go. I want to make sure your family see you on TV because then someone will say, Dr. Cruz, I couldn't see my baby. So we have to make sure all your families can see you.
Jack Boydee and June Lee, and captains Brooke Fertig, Lillian Vo, Jacob Graybill, and Drew Eisen. President Rodriguez.
We also want to recognize our principal who's here from Bowie High School.
Yes,
Call me back.
Mr. Mark Robinson is the principal of Bowie High, proud principal of Bowie High School.
I do, as we get into recognitions, and as Mr. Robinson is coming up, so proud of the performances. And, you know, when I'm out there, I'm really just, you know, I'm just dad when I'm out there. But I think every single time you brought a tear to my eyes because of the passion, the commitment. You just demonstrate, you're just doing your thing. And it's just amazing to see when students demonstrate their genius in so many ways. And you're so talented. You work hard. These are late hours. Folks, I didn't know how hard you worked, but I do now. And I want to thank you so much for all of the beautiful music that you've shared with the with our community.
Thank you. I want to recognize Trustee Wagner.
Well, this is a particularly fun and prideful one for me because I've had the distinct pleasure of having a child go through the program and be one of your peers in the program. And I have been so incredibly impressed with the dedication, the diligence, the hard work that these students put in into this program. These are kids that are spending, you know, 3-a-days in the heat for a month every summer. They're going and losing a lot of sleep, a lot of hours, and still managing to put in the work on their academics to keep their grades strong despite being at practices till 9 and 10 o'clock at night throughout the fall. So it requires a tremendous amount of diligence to do what you do, and you guys have reaped the rewards this season for sure. Definitely have brought a tear to my eye, made the hair on the back of my neck stand up watching you guys a few times, just with utter exhilaration watching the product. It's been incredible. So congratulations to y'all on a great season. And on behalf of the Austin ISD Board of Trustees, I am honored to recognize and congratulate the James Bowie Outdoor Performing Ensemble for being named champion at the Band of America Waco Regional Competition and for earning the rank of number 19 in the United States. Your hard work and many hours of preparation dedicated to your music has enabled the Bowie Band to finish as finalists in every competition they entered this fall. Your level of excellence and achievement brings honor not only to the Bowie community, but also to the Austin Independent School District. So moved.
Thank you.
So good.
Well, we don't have a motion, but oh yeah, we want to welcome you to come up so we can shake your hand, and again, congratulations. And we'll take a picture. Yeah, we should just stay here.
Yep. Picture time.
It's not every day. It's not every day we get recognition of celebrities. Yeah.
It may not help.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Awesome.
Congratulations again. Next on our agenda is recognition for the achievements of the McCallum High School Marching Band. Dr. Cruz?
So Austin truly is a music capital, live music capital of the world, right? So let me, with our recognitions to another amazing high school and amazing musicians. Dr. Shapiro?
Good evening again. The McCallum High School Band was the only high school in the Austin Independent School District to advance to UIL State Marching Championships held November 2nd through the 4th, 2019 at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. McCallum was eligible to advance to state based on its being named the champions at the October UIL Area D contest held in Pflugerville. Representing the McCallum High School Band tonight are drum majors Jonah Brown, come on up, and Dexter Canning. And their proud principal, Brandy Hosick, will join us as well. President Rodriguez, I present to you the McCallum Superior Band for this year.
Thank you. Congratulations. I want to recognize Trustee Ashe.
So I was lucky enough to be at the field the night that you guys competed, and I can tell you the excitement and the joy of watching you guys when you heard the results gives me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps because it was so much fun, and I, as a band mom myself, I know how hard you guys worked, and I know how much you aspire to perform so well in UIL. So congratulations. I hope you are swimming in that accomplishment and really enjoying all of the accolades that you deserve. So on behalf of the Austin ISD Board of Trustees, I am honored to recognize and congratulate the McCallum High School Marching Band, advancing to UIL State Marching Championship competition earlier this fall. Your dedication and hard work has earned recognition as one of the best marching bands in the state. In addition to representing your campus and community at the state contest, you represent the Austin Independent School District. The Austin Independent School District congratulates your accomplishment and looks forward to supporting your future endeavors. So moved.
I also want to mention, so there's no moving, right?
Nope,
So,
there's no
okay.
motion.
But I do want to just recognize that when I was at McCallum, I actually checked off something on my bucket list because I always wanted to direct a band. And I was able to do that. So Director Nelson allowed me to do that. He probably got permission from Ms. Hosak or something, but that was just amazing. And what I love to see all at football games is you enjoy what you do so much. And it really just comes through in your performances. Very, very proud of what you do and the way you demonstrate your genius and excel in the arts.
So I'd invite you all to come up and shake hands and take a picture. Congratulations.
Okay, and in 3, 2, 1. Awesome.
Congratulations again. Last on our agenda is recognition of the AISD schools that earned distinction designations from the Texas Education Agency under the 2019 State Accountability System. Dr. Cruz?
So President Rodriguez and board members, at this time is when we recognize our campuses, our campus leadership, our teachers, staff members for the great work that they do every single day. These are recognitions that are awarded by the Texas Education Agency for academic distinction designations. These will be in the areas of SAT, ACT, around AP, advanced courses, STAR performance, many, many different indicators, and we want to make sure to recognize our leadership who are here representing their amazing teachers and campus staff members for the great work that they do. To begin our recognition, I'll call forward Dr. Craig Shapiro, Associate Superintendent for High Schools.
Good evening, President Rodriguez, Board of Trustees. Once again, I am privileged to announce the schools that earned distinction designations for the 2019 Texas State Accountability. First, Aikens High School, Tina Salazar. Anderson High School, Sammy Harrison. Ann Richards School for Young Women Leaders, Christina Waugh. Austin High School, represented by Nicole Griffith. Bowie High School, Mark Robinson. Crockett High School, Corey Crawford. Eastside Memorial High School, Miguel Garcia. Lhasa High School, Stacia Crescenzi. LBJ High School, represented by Trent Law. McCallum High School, Brandy Hasek. Navarro High School, Stephen Coven. Northeast High School, Alicia Longoria. And Travis High School, Christina Hangen Steele. Now I call up, first of all, congratulations. Next up, I call Raul Moreno, the Associate Superintendent of Middle Schools.
Good evening, members of the board. From the middle schools, we have from Goritsky Middle School, Whitney Black. From Keeling Middle School, Kenesha Coburn. From Lamar Middle School, Natalie Adams. And from Lively Middle School, Dr. Sherry Lapine. And next we have Mr. Gilbert Hicks, Associate Superintendent for Elementary Schools.
Good evening. Elementary principals receiving designations for their school this year include the following: Blackshear Elementary School, Rick Garner; Blanton Elementary School, Dora Molina; Blazier Elementary School, Letty Pena; Brentwood Elementary School, Amber LaRoche; Brook Elementary School, Griselda Vargas; Campbell Elementary School, Keith Moore; Casey Elementary School, Lena Villarreal; Cassis Elementary School, Sam Tenen; Cook Elementary School, Priscilla Sanchez Imamian; Cowan Elementary School, Travis Bruner; Doss Elementary School, Nathan Steenport; Graham Elementary School, all 6 distinctions are Celia Paredes. And let me go back. I messed up. Let me go back to Blazier Elementary School, all 6 distinctions as well. Letty Pena. Guerrero Thompson Elementary School, Brianna Garcia; Jordan Elementary School, Adrian Williams; Kiker Elementary School, Alma Chapa Moore; Kasurik Elementary School, Heather Parmalee; Lee Elementary School, John Hewlett; Matthews Elementary School, Grace Martino Brewster; Metz Elementary School, Martha Castillo; Mills Elementary School, Lala Beecham; Norman Elementary School, Wendy Mills; Oak Springs Elementary School, Charles C. Johnson; Overton Elementary School, Courtney Colvin; Pecan Springs Elementary School, Andrea Williams; Riley Elementary School, Corinne Sines; Sims Elementary School, Wendy Mills; Summit Elementary School, Kelly Freedy; Sunset Valley Elementary School, Marissa Marquez; Travis Heights Elementary School, Michelle Navarro; Webb Primary Center, Yolanda Lopez; Wadane Elementary School, Jennifer Pace; Wooldridge Elementary School, Sherry Mull; Zavala Elementary School, Jose Mejia; and Zilker Elementary School, Alicia Hill. Congratulations to the elementary principals receiving distinctions.
Can I ask for all of our principals to please stand up? All of our principals, please stand up so we can give you a big round of applause.
So President Rodriguez, that concludes the recognition.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, may I take a point of
Trustee
personal privilege, please? Real quick.
Yeah, so Trustee Tice is doing the recognition,
after
the
that.
official board recognition, and
and
then
it's
I'll
a good
recognize
one.
you. Trustee Tice.
Well, it's my great pleasure to do this. In 2019, the Austin Independent School District students performed well under the state's new accountability system, with 112 schools receiving overall rating of A, B, C, or D, and 51 schools earning a total of 123 distinction designations for outstanding performance in student achievement, student progress, and post-secondary readiness. Campuses that achieved an overall rating of A, B, C, or D were eligible for distinction designations based on high performance on indicators other than those used to determine accountability ratings. The Texas Education Agency awarded distinction designations in 7 areas, those being academic achievement in reading, English, language arts, academic achievement in mathematics, academic achievement in science, academic achievement in social studies, top 25%, student progress, top 25%, closing performance gaps, and post-secondary readiness. Overall, 51 AISD schools received 1 or more distinction designations, 5 secondary schools earned 5 or more, 3 elementary schools earned at least 5 of the 6 available to them, and 3 schools earned every available distinction designation. The 3 schools that earned all available distinction designations are the Liberal Arts and Science Academy, Graham Elementary, and Blazier Elementary School. It is with great pleasure that the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District celebrates the accomplishments of the 51 schools that received 1 or more academic achievement distinction designations. Sincere congratulations to the students, families, and staff of those schools.
Thank you and congratulations again. I want to recognize Trustee Singh.
So she's going to kill me for this, but I will say I had the honor of teaching one of these wonderful principals in 4th grade 25 years ago, Priscilla Sanchez Amamian. I'm so proud of you.
Dr. Cruz.
So we'd like for all of our principals to please come forward to the board, and I can recognize you for your great achievements. So as so
Dr. Cruz. I'll just try to make. Okay.
So as all of our principals are exiting and making their way out, no, I think hugs are good and they're really deserved. Truly, truly deserved. I do want to certainly thank all of our leadership who's here. I also want to thank members of my team who all stood up to recognize and to give hugs and high fives to all of our principals. I know it means a lot to them to demonstrate and show them their recognition and of course the love that we have for them and for all of our teachers, staff members in our schools. As Trustee Singh mentioned, I guess I'm going to do a little point of privilege here too. Our principal, Mr. Garcia, who's principal of Eastside Memorial Early College High School, when I was assistant superintendent down in San Benito, Texas, down in the valley, Mr. Garcia was actually a high school student. So I was able to hand him his diploma when he was a high school student a long, long time ago. Of course, he graduated at 18 and I was about 20 as an assistant superintendent. So we're very close in age, or at least I'm 20 to 30 years older than he is. But just, it's always great to see it when you see our own students come back and demonstrate their leadership. I can understand the pride that you feel.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. Before we begin our general public comment portion of the meeting, I'd like to remind everybody about our BED local policy. So signs or placards brought to a board meeting shall not be permitted to block the vision of those attending the meeting, nor the district's cameras used to record and televise the meeting. Signs or placards shall be allowed only behind the last row of seats or against the side walls of the board meeting room. We now will move to general public comment, and again remind everyone that this is the time we dedicate ourselves to welcoming and encouraging public comments during our regular board meeting and to commit ourselves to active listening. Board members wish they could engage in a conversation with speakers on matters of concern and interest to the speaker that is not part of tonight's agenda, but in accordance with section 551.042A of the Texas Government Code Legal, board members may only make a statement of specific factual information or recite existing policy in response to an inquiry, propose that the subject be placed on a future agenda, or ask that the speaker visit with staff about the issue. After the completion of general public comment, trustees may request from the superintendent additional information, clarification, and/or follow-up based upon comments provided by any one or more speakers. Please also know that there are additional ways to communicate with the board, including emailing the board directly at trustees@austinisd.org. In order to provide as many opportunities for input as possible within a limited time period at this meeting, each speaker will be allotted 1 minute with a maximum of 10 speakers allowed. Speakers may sign up by phone or in person. No substitutions or yielding of time to others is permitted. And as you come to the microphone, there's a device that will light up as you move through your 1 minute of allotted time. When the buzzer sounds, please make a final thought in one sentence. We ask that whether you come to give a complaint or praise, that you reference the staff member by position or by abbreviated last name. We ask that all audience members, whether speaking or not, please show respect for others at all times. We strive to foster a culture of dignity and respect. We ask that everyone in attendance display civility and decorum, that is, respect for other persons, and refrain from any insulting, profane, threatening, or abusive language. To create efficiency and to address potential overcrowding concerns, we may bring speakers to designated rows in the front of the meeting room to await their turn to speak. We want to remind speakers that if a seat is not available after speaking, we are asking for you to step back into the lobby or outside after your comments. And we ask that speakers not hold signs while speaking. Unless accompanied by children or accompanied by another person for a medical reason, we ask that only the speaker stand at the podium when speaking. Supporters should not join a speaker at the podium. If anyone feels the need for additional support because of something they may have heard or witnessed that triggers an uncomfortable or unsettling feeling, please advise the counselor who is here to provide support to allow your voice to be heard and your concerns addressed. And please advise the counselor who is sitting beside the officer who's waving her hand right there. Should you wish to offer additional written remarks that are not bound by time, please give them to the AISD officer on duty, which is officer right there. Each board member and the superintendent will be provided with a copy. The Office of Translation and Interpretation provides a Spanish language translator for audience members who need assistance when addressing trustees or need assistance understanding comments made to trustees during public comment. If you need this service during other portions of the meeting, please speak with the interpreter. Melissa Gonzalez, Spanish translator and interpreter, will repeat portions of this message in Spanish.
Antes de que comencemos la parte de nuestra junta para los comentarios del público, me gustaría recordarles a todos sobre nuestra norma BED local. No se permitirá que los letreros o pancartas que traigan a la junta de la mesa directiva obstruyan la visión de aquellos que asisten a la junta, ni las cámaras que se utilizan para grabar y televisar la junta. Los letreros o pancartas se permitirán solo detrás de la última fila de asientos o contra las paredes laterales de la sala de juntas de la mesa directiva. Ahora pasaremos a los comentarios del público. Me gustaría recordarles a todos que este es el momento que dedicamos para invitar y fomentar comentarios del público durante nuestra junta ordinaria de la mesa directiva y para comprometernos a escuchar activamente. Los miembros de la mesa directiva quisieran poder entablar una conversación con los participantes sobre asuntos de inquietud e interés para ellos que no forman parte de la agenda de esta noche, pero según la sección 551.042A del Código de Gobierno de Texas legal, los miembros de la mesa directiva solo pueden hacer una declaración de información factual específica o recitar normas existentes en respuesta a una pregunta, proponer que el tema se añada a una agenda futura o pedirle al participante que hable con el personal sobre el asunto. Después de que terminen los comentarios del público, los miembros de la mesa directiva pueden solicitarle al superintendente más información, clarificación o seguimiento con base en los comentarios proporcionados por uno o más participantes. Sepan también que hay otras maneras de comunicarse con la mesa directiva, incluyendo directamente por correo electrónico a trustees@austinisd.org. Para ofrecer tantas oportunidades como sea posible para aportar opiniones dentro de un periodo limitado de tiempo en esta junta, se le dará 1 minuto a cada participante con un máximo de 10 participantes permitidos. Los participantes pueden inscribirse por teléfono o en persona. No se permiten sustituciones ni cederles el tiempo a otros. Cuando venga el micrófono, hay un dispositivo en el que se encenderá una luz mientras dure su minuto de tiempo permitido. Cuando suene el timbre, diga su idea final en una oración. Le pedimos que, ya sea que venga a presentar una queja o un elogio, se refiera al miembro del personal por supuesto o su apellido abreviado. Pedimos que todos los miembros de la audiencia, estén participando o no, demuestren respeto por los demás en todo momento. Nos esforzamos por fomentar una cultura de dignidad y respeto. Pedimos que todos los asistentes demuestren civilidad y decoro, es decir, respeto por otras personas, y que se abstengan de insultar, decir obscenidades, amenazar o utilizar lenguaje abusivo. Queremos recordarles a los participantes que si no hay un asiento disponible después de hablar, les pedimos que salgan al vestíbulo o afuera después de sus comentarios. Pedimos que los participantes no sostengan letreros mientras hablan. A menos que estén acompañados por niños o acompañados por otra persona por una razón médica, pedimos que solo el participante se pare en el podio para hablar. Los simpatizantes no deben acompañar al participante al podio. Si alguien siente la necesidad de más apoyo a causa de algo que haya oído o de lo que haya sido testigo y que le desencadena un sentimiento de incomodidad o perturbación, puede decírselo a la consejera que está aquí para que le ofrezca apoyo de salud mental para permitir que se escuche su opinión y se aborden sus inquietudes. Avísele a nuestra consejera que está sentada junto al oficial. Si desea ofrecer otros comentarios por escrito que no estén sujetos a un límite de tiempo, entrégueselos al oficial del EISD de turno. Se le dará una copia a cada miembro de la mesa directiva y al superintendente. La Oficina de Traducción e Interpretación provee un intérprete de español para los miembros de la audiencia que necesitan ayuda para dirigirse a los miembros de la mesa directiva o que necesitan ayuda para entender los comentarios hechos a la mesa directiva durante los comentarios del público. Si necesita este servicio durante otras partes de la Junta, por favor hable con la intérprete Melissa González, traductora e intérprete de español.
Gracias, Melissa. The first speaker tonight in public comment is Kate Anderson. And then after is Nancy Mims, and then Anita Robertson.
Are we ready?
I'm talking to the technical folks, if they can note it as 1 minute, or Todd, is it 2 during general? 1, right? So if you can.
It's set at 2 minutes now.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, it'll start when you start.
And I'm a
speaking.
speech pathologist, so I speak very loudly, so hopefully it won't be too loud. My name is Kate Anderson, and I have been an AISD speech-language pathologist for 30 years. Several years ago, we fought for and won the recognition that, like special education teachers, we also are special education case managers, and thus eligible for the special education stipend. However, the fact that we did not get the same $500 stipend increase that the SPED teachers got shows that, once again, the board is unaware of what we do, and this is another reason why we cannot retain staff. The SPED teachers only do documentation for the kids on their caseload. The SLP does documentation not only for the SI kids they case manage, but on every kid on that campus with a speech impairment, which at Brook Elementary is 63% of the SPED kids. That means that I do special education documentation for those kids at every ARD meeting they have. And the SPED teachers get the SPED stipend increase, and I don't. So that needs to be corrected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Nancy Mims, and I'm a parent in AISD. What I witnessed at the November 6th Board Operations meeting is not reflected in the minutes up for a vote in tonight's consent agenda. What's missing is how trustees Letitia Anderson, Singh, and Tyke attempted to bring Dr. Hawley's equity analysis into formal consideration before the November 18th vote to close schools. What's also missing is how individual power, protecting the status quo through control of conversation, rules, an agenda, and silence, was asserted to stifle these trustees' attempts to bring the equity assessment and thereby equity itself to the table. On November 18th, we all had the humbling privilege of hearing Dr. Hawley courageously offer grace and an out to the yes vote. And she made a very clear call for a third-party equity audit of facilities, finances, and academics. Please make this audit an immediate priority. Please recognize it as an opportunity to shine light on compassionate, anti-racist path forward and a chance for leadership to model our collective responsibility to disrupt systems that harm so many of our students, families, and communities.
Thank you for your comments. Anita Robertson. And then after Anita is John McInerney Gonzalez, and then Angela Perez.
The last time I was here, I really questioned my faith in humanity. I was really taken back by how 89 people could persuasively talk about the harm, fight for their schools along with students that morning, state representatives, and it was really disheartening. It was also painfully obvious that some of you did not get the chance or chose not to read the mental health letter that talked about the harm that would cause by targeting students that have a high ACE population. This was reinforced by one trustee that talked about how her life wasn't impacted that much by changing schools, most likely because she would have a low ACE score or high protective factors, stuff that was provided multiple times by licensed mental health professionals. Choosing or not seeing the equity reports, these things doesn't mean that you're not responsible for the harm that is going to happen with school closures and consolidations. I ask you to be brave, to be courageous, to show that you have a growth mindset and that you can learn from your mistakes and ask to have more time to review the information before doing things that cannot be undone. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. John?
Buenas noches. Is the mic on? Okay. I'm here to push for an enrollment scorecard, a desegregation scorecard, and a sustainability scorecard. Why, in a city that brings in 53 people a day, when the population of Austin under the age of 18 has increased from 175,000 in 2010 to 193,000 in 2017, when our property tax and rent increases emphasize the capacity of the district to embrace all students, why has AISD lost 6,000 students when the number of population has increased by maybe 17,000 students? This is a district-wide problem and deserves a district-wide grade. And ongoing thought and effort, not implicit blah, blah, blaming East Austin principals and Urban Core principals for their failure, for our failure to defend the joy and promise of public education. A segregation scorecard. Everyone who follows the news knows Austin is the live music capital of the world and the most income-segregated city in Texas. Let us make our efforts against a climate that promotes segregation part of our scorecard. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Pages, the last name is Pires. And then after Angela is Amanda Embleton, and then Susan Gamage, and then Chia Guillory, and then Doug Boyer.
Okay. Good evening, trustees and superintendent. My name is Angela Pires. My daughter goes to an ISD school. Her school is under-enrolled. Her school operates in an old building. Her school has failed to provide her with the service that she needs to achieve academically. Yet, I don't want her school to close. The thing is, I don't have to worry about it. Her school was never in the closures list. Her school is a majority white school in an affluent neighborhood and is being awarded by the district with a multi-million-dollar new addition using money from the 2013 bond contingency funds. My daughter's already well-resourced school is taking money and opportunities from schools that are set for closure and that are attended mostly by Black and brown students. We, as a district, need to do better. We need to reverse the decision to close the schools based on a racist plan, and we need a third-party equity audit of facilities, finances, and academic, street-wide. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Embleton. Amanda Embleton. Then Susan Gamage.
Good evening. I would like to ask for Dr. Halley's request for the third-party equity audit to be complete. I would also like to ask that the money from the 2013 and 2017 bond is not considered surplus funds, but funds that are kept to the schools that they were promised. I think that it's important that the district honor their commitment to the schools, especially the schools that are sustaining the brunt of these issues with closures and consolidations. And I appreciate your time. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Susan.
Thank you. I'm an AISD parent. Before the school closure plan was announced and the rushed process began, I naively believed that the school district and its board prioritized the emotional and educational interests of children above all else. I have since learned that, in fact, some of you are motivated by corrupt self-interest, while others of you shamelessly choose to sacrifice the well-being of some children primarily financially disadvantaged students of color, in order to protect more influential families in their schools. Clearly, the district's reason for school closures had nothing to do with the smokescreens of fixing inequities or saving money. Ignoring your equity officer and her report and putting construction contracts and real estate deals ahead of children's welfares is disgraceful. I urge AISD to initiate an outside equity audit and for the local media to continue to investigate the conflicts of interest on this board and within the district's administration. We are appalled, and we will not stop exposing the injustice and corruption until every single AISD family is aware, and I hope equally disturbed.
Thank you for your comment. Doug Boyer.
Good evening. I'm going to talk about trust and how East Austin sees ISD, Austin ISD. We see you building a new music wing at Lee with 2013 contingency bond funds while Brook can't get its ADA ramp. We see Superintendent Cruz tweeting about how awesome a West Austin $30 million parking garage is while not spending allocated 2017 bond funds in East Austin. Giving false hope with target utilization plan goals. Ignoring the facility master plan that says TEA academic distinctions will be considered first before closures. Go Brook in math and science. Voting for a 21st century racist plan. Begging the Attorney General to hide the equity report. Ignoring the schools you just voted to close for a whole month. Leaving the schools to coordinate tours at other campuses that they have to consider. Let's reverse course so parents will consider the remaining East Austin schools like Zavala. Reconsider the vote, keep your word, be transparent, develop a growth mindset, conduct the equity audit. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes public comment. Trustees, are there questions or clarifications? And please remember, since public comments are not specifically posted for discussion tonight, board members are legally restricted to either making a statement of specific factual information, recite, excuse me, recite existing policy in response to an inquiry, ask that the subject be placed on a future agenda, or ask staff to visit with the speaker about the issue. Trustees, any? Trustee Wagner.
I did notice that Chia Guillory is in the audience. She was on our list.
Yeah, I called Amanda Emilton and then Susan Gamage, and then I called Chia Guillory and Doug Boyer. Okay. So did we forget somebody here? Chia. Okay. Yeah, happy to have you come. Sorry about that. Apologize. So Amanda Emilton spoke. And then, and then Susan did, and then we went to Doug, and I apologize. Yeah.
I heard my name before, and then I didn't hear it.
Yeah, and just if you want to just say your name, we won't count that in the 1 minute, and then we'll have it start afterwards. So that would be a little bit unfair.
Chia Guillory.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, I'm wondering how that vote is sitting with y'all, knowing that it's causing distress and trauma to families and children. It's been really hard, and it's been really sad. I would encourage, if you're proud of that and if you have no qualms with it, I would encourage the third-party equity audit to happen, as Dr. Hawley requested. If you can have her up here and hear all that what she said and then turn around and vote on it 5 minutes later and you're proud of it, then let's do that audit, and there's nothing to hide. Let's just get it rolling. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you for your comment. So now with that concludes our public comments. Trustees, are there any questions or clarifications? Trustee Tice and then Trustee Letitia Anderson.
So I've wrote several requests for information or clarification. Our SLPs, the stipend that was referenced tonight, it'd be helpful. I think this has been mentioned before. It'd be helpful to know where we are in our budget planning and our plans for retaining our speech pathologists. If we could have an update on that for our 2020-2021 budget. I'd like some clarification about bond funds following students at closed schools or consolidated schools. And then also make a request for us to discuss the third-party equity audit and see where we are on that.
Okay. Trustee Anderson.
A request and a comment. My request also is a future discussion on the third-party equity audit. And my comment is, I do believe, I've been in this district long enough to know what ASLP does, and I have much respect for the work that you do, but don't assume that we don't know what it is, because we do. So thank you for everything you do.
Trustees, any other comments or questions? Trustee Singh.
Yeah, I just want to further echo. I am interested in hearing more about where we are in the budgeting process with regards to consideration for special ed. I'm sorry, yeah, the stipend increase for the SLPs. And interested as well to see if the district is considering doing a third-party equity report, I'm sorry, equity audit, and would like to request again that at an upcoming board info session or other meeting, we have a chance to review the equity report that we received recently from Dr. Holly. Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions or clarifications? Okay. I think we're going to move on to this one. So thank you, trustees. We now move to the public testimony for items on consent agenda and items for separate vote. This is a new part of our regular voting meeting agenda to enable persons wishing to provide testimony for items posted for action or discussion and possible action to provide their input. We will retain discretion over the order in which items are called, and tonight we have, oh, I didn't count in. We have 8 people signed up to speak for, well, actually, sorry. We have 5 people signed up to speak for this agenda item, but we have 1 person who signed up 4 times in different items. And I would just want to make sure that I clarify that tonight we are going to allow the individual to do that because we have no policy currently in place. So the law, just so we can go back in context here, the law was passed that that we change the way we do our public comment. Because the law passed and there was no policy yet in place because the law wasn't in effect, we have been trying out different ways of public comment with our board counsel's advice. One of the things that we have discretion about right now is how we do that. So in one sense, that individual person will make history because they will be the only person to have ever spoken 4 times in one meeting. Because at the next meeting, we plan to pass a policy that goes back to our kind of pattern and practice since the law started, which is to allow an individual to speak for 1 minute, and then they can speak for a second item up to an additional 1 minute. So that's our policy that we plan to consider and have and pass. But because we don't have that and we did not include that language in our sign up for this particular meeting, we're going to allow you to speak for those items that you signed up for. So just to kind of clarify that that's what we're attempting to do as we go through this tonight. Please also know that there are additional ways to communicate with the board, including emailing the board directly at trustees@austinisd.org In order to provide as many opportunities for input as possible within a limited time period at this meeting, each speaker will be allotted 1 minute, unless otherwise stated. Speakers may sign up online, by phone, or in person, and no substitutions or yielding of time to others is permitted. As you come to the microphone, there's a device that will light up as you move through your 1 minute of allotted time. When the buzzer sounds, please make a final thought in 1 sentence. Again, we ask that whether you come to give a complaint or praise, that you reference the staff person by position or by abbreviated last name. We ask that all audience members, whether speaking or not, please show respect for others at all times. We strive to foster a culture of dignity and respect, and we ask that everyone in attendance display civility and decorum, that is, respect for others, and refrain from any insulting, profane, threatening, or abusive language. To create efficiency and to address potential overcrowding concerns, we may bring speakers to designated rows in the front of the meeting room to await their turn to speak. And we want to remind speakers that if a seat is not available after speaking, we're asking for you to step back into the lobby or outside after your comments. We ask that speakers not hold signs while speaking unless accompanied by children or accompanied by another person for a medical reason. And we ask that only the speaker stand at the podium when speaking, and supporters should not join a speaker at the podium. If anyone feels the need for additional support because of something that may have heard or witnessed that triggers an uncomfortable or unsettling feeling, please advise the counselor, who is here to provide support, to allow your voice to be heard and your concerns addressed. And please advise the counselor who's sitting beside the officer. And should you wish to offer additional remarks that are not bound by time, please give them to the AISD officer on duty. Each board member and the superintendent will be provided with a copy, and the officer on duty is sitting right here to our right. The Office of Translation and Interpretation provides a Spanish language translator for audience members who need assistance when addressing trustees or need assistance understanding comments made to trustees during public testimony. If translation is required, the speaker will be given twice the allotted time. If you need this service during other portions of the meeting, please speak with the interpreter, Melissa Gonzalez, Spanish translator and interpreter, and she will repeat portions of this message in Spanish. Melissa.
Ahora pasamos al testimonio público sobre asuntos en la agenda de consentimiento y asuntos con una votación separada. Esta es una parte nueva de nuestra agenda de la Junta Ordinaria de Votación para permitir que den sus aportes las personas que desean ofrecer testimonio sobre asuntos publicados para tomar acción o para su discusión y posible acción. Conservamos la discreción sobre el orden en que se discuten los asuntos. Esta noche tenemos a 5 personas que se han inscrito para hablar para los asuntos de la agenda. En este caso tenemos una persona que va a hablar 4 veces en diferentes asuntos. Por esta noche lo vamos a permitir porque todavía no tenemos ninguna política. Cuando la ley se aprobó para cambiar la manera en que hacemos los comentarios públicos, como no teníamos una política todavía, estamos probando diferentes tipos de maneras. Así que esta persona va a hacer historia esta noche, hablando 4 veces en la Junta, pero ya la próxima Junta vamos a tener un cambio de política. Pero por hoy vamos a permitirlo. Sepan también que hay otras maneras de comunicarse con la mesa directiva, incluyendo directamente por correo electrónico a trustees@austinisd.org. Para ofrecer tantas oportunidades como sea posible para aportar opiniones dentro de un periodo limitado de tiempo en esta Junta, se le dará 1 minuto a cada participante. Los participantes pueden inscribirse en línea, por teléfono o en persona. No se permiten sustituciones ni cederles el tiempo a otros. Cuando venga el micrófono, hay un dispositivo en el que se encenderá una luz mientras dure su minuto de tiempo permitido. Cuando suene el timbre, diga su idea final en una oración. Nuevamente le pedimos que, ya sea que venga a presentar una queja o un elogio, se refiera al miembro del personal por su puesto o su apellido abreviado. Pedimos que todos los miembros de la audiencia, estén participando o no, demuestren respeto por los demás en todo momento. Nos esforzamos por fomentar una cultura de dignidad y respeto. Pedimos que todos los asistentes demuestren civilidad y decoro, es decir, respeto por otras personas, y que se abstengan de insultar, decir obscenidades, amenazar o utilizar lenguaje abusivo. Queremos recordarles a los participantes que si no hay un asiento disponible después de hablar, les pedimos que salgan al vestíbulo o afuera después de sus comentarios. Pedimos que los participantes no sostengan letreros mientras hablan. A menos que estén acompañados por niños o acompañados por otra persona por una razón médica, pedimos que solo el participante se pare en el podio para hablar. Los simpatizantes no deben acompañar al participante al podio. Si alguien siente la necesidad de más apoyo a causa de algo que hayan oído o de lo que hayan sido testigos y que les desencadena una sensación de incomodidad o perturbación, por favor, avísele a la consejera que está aquí para ofrecer apoyo de salud mental para permitir que se escuche su opinión y se aborden sus inquietudes. Nuestra consejera está sentada junto al oficial. Si desea ofrecer otros comentarios por escrito que no estén sujetos a un límite de tiempo, entrégueselos al oficial del AISD de turno. Se le dará una copia a cada miembro de la mesa directiva y al superintendente. La Oficina de Traducción e Interpretación provee un intérprete de español para los miembros de la audiencia que necesitan ayuda para dirigirse a los miembros de la mesa directiva o que necesitan ayuda para entender los comentarios hechos a los miembros de la mesa directiva durante el testimonio público. Si se requiere interpretación, se le dará el doble de tiempo al participante. Si necesita este servicio durante otras partes de la Junta, hable con la intérprete Melissa González, traductora e intérprete de español.
Did I not? Sorry. I'll start over again. Gracias, Melissa. The order of the speakers in public testimony will be taken up by agenda item. So for example, an agenda item 8.1, development and design of a health careers program for grades 9 through 12 at AISD's James Bowie High School. We have one speaker who signed up, and that would be Jared Brackenridge. So Jared, you have 1 minute. And then the second speaker who signed up for item 8.2, memorandum of agreement partnership between Austin Board of Realtors and Austin Independent School District, is Jared Brackenridge. And then item 8.3, approval of innovative courses for 2020-2021, is Jared Brackenridge. So Jared, do you want us to put 3 minutes? I'll give you the option: 3 minutes or 1 minute on one topic, and then 1 minute on the other topic, and 1 minute on the other topic.
Just so that we can have the same procedure going forward. Just
1
minute.
Okay.
Stop. 1 minute.
Great.
1 minute. 1 minute.
So your first minute is on item 8.1, development and design of health career programs.
Ready? Design of a healthcare careers program for grades 9 through 12 at Bowie High School. I wonder, why did you guys choose this school? It's kind of obvious. I'm not too sure. That would be information that us, the public, would like to know as we try to let you gain our trust again. You're not going to gain our trust because you've showed us time and time again that you can't have our trust. Disgusting, abominable, awful, creepy, hateful, horrific, objectionable, nasty. These are just all synonyms for the word disgusting. That's what your plan that you just implemented is. You guys don't understand what you just did. You decided to close 4 schools, but 3 specifically in East Austin, and all having majority African Americans and Hispanics in them. It's kind of disappointing because several of you on the board, as well as in leadership, top leadership positions, are black or Hispanic, and I don't understand why you would do this to a certain demographics. I guess it's for land grabs, things like that. But yeah, the Bowie High School is questionable why you guys chose that. Thank you.
Jared, thank you if you can put that. Jared, I just want to remind the board and public, the time period for public testimonies is on the topic of the agenda item.
I did. I covered it. Right?
So the next item is 8.2, memorandum of agreement of partnership between Austin Board of Realtors and Austin Independent School District. I'm sorry.
If she has a comment, she's more than welcome to make it out loud. Go ahead.
Trustee Tice.
So I just wanted a clarification about sticking to the topic. Item 8.1 is about this program at Bowie, but it's not about school closures. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I was just curious about that, why you included school closures.
Trust, and that all had to do with Bowie High School. Thank you for allowing me to provide my clarification.
Thank you. Jared, whenever you'd like 8.2, memorandum of agreement partnership.
Wait, where are we at? 8.2?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, good. So as we look at this one, it is the memorandum between the Austin Board of Realtors and I think it's Aikens High School, if I'm correct. And once again, I want to know why this one was chosen as well. It's my understanding that you guys have already disserviced the East Austin community and time again. So I wonder, when are we going to get our programs and things like that? to meet this equity standard. I don't know if you guys know what equity is, but it's making sure that the ones that don't have a certain thing or something, they get that. And it's not over investing in one part of town and not in the other part of town. Yeah, it's once again, it's disgusting, abominable, awful, hateful that you would choose to do that. And I hope that you guys can decide to put your ethics at the top of everything and redo this, because it was not done right. And your chief equity officer sat right here and told you before you voted for it that it wasn't right, Trustee Matthias. And so I ask that you guys please reconsider this decision, because you didn't choose to do it in several parts of town. You specifically chose East Austin. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is 8.3, approval of innovative courses for 2020-2021.
Once again, my name is Jerry Brackenridge, and this goes back to equity. So I had a chance to look at all these innovative courses that you guys are looking at implementing. I am just going to put it at the forefront before anything even gets to rolling, making sure that this is in East Austin, as where you guys mostly don't choose to invest as much. I will give you credit. You do invest sometimes, but a lot of times, like, you have shut down our schools time and time again. This isn't the first time y'all done this. Harmed our East Austin schools. I am a product of East Austin, so that's why you will see me out here fighting for East Austin. I thank Trustee Letitia Anderson for continuing to fight for us in East Austin. Yeah, and you guys, I hope that you can go back on your decision, because as you know, it was not the right thing to do, and you will continue to hear it until you guys run for elections again and you don't get it, and you put that bond up in 2022, 2021, whenever you put it up, it ain't getting passed, because we don't trust you with our money. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Absolutely.
The next speaker on item 12.2 is Allison Cook. And then after Allison is Tricia.
Chicachopo.
Thank you very much. And again on 12.2, and then we have two other speakers on the same item. Allison.
Okay, I'm Allison Cook, speech language pathologist for the district. I'm here to talk about our children in special education and our families are affected when a staff SLP leaves. SLPs serve students with ages, birth, from 3 to 22. We are often the one constant in a child's school life. When we lose an SLP from the staff during the school year, the child loses a familiar support person. The collaborative alliance among teachers and the service provider is broken. The therapy sessions are missed, and in short, the child's therapeutic progress is compromised. Last year, we rarely are able to fill the positions with a permanent hire during the school year. With luck, we are able to hire a contract SLP to fill in, which limits our options to hire people due to non-competition clauses in those contracts. The SLPs are limited to working 37.5 hours per week, not 40 like us. In either case, becoming acquainted with the personalities and needs of 50, 60 students takes time. Forming partnerships with teachers takes time. This stiff competition with limited portions in the SLP area. We lose 20% of our SLPs last year. We're on slate to lose many more this year. Let us work together to welcoming and rewarding place to work for speech therapists for our children's sake.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Tricia.
Good evening. I resigned from my position as a speech-language pathologist in AISD in November. Part of the reason that I was unable to return was the workload in which a single AISD SLP must endure is at least that of 2 employees. I was rarely able to actually do the therapy for which I was hired without the assistance of a graduate student. Graduate students are wonderful assets, but SLPs should not feel obligated to use them, particularly when our primary responsibility as licensed professionals is to provide specialized therapeutic services to students. I share this to illustrate that AISD SLPs are given far too many responsibilities for a single person to realistically perform. The work-life balance of an SLP and AISD is hardly adequate, and because of this, you will find it difficult to fill positions and retain experienced and highly qualified SLPs. The SLPs in this district are truly dedicated and hardworking professionals. It has been my pleasure to be part of this team. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The last two speakers under item 12.2 are Jane Aldridge and Ivana Alfaro.
Well, I got all weepy when Trish read her little letter. I'm like, whoop. I am not resigning this month, but there are 3 SLPs on your list, and there will be 3 more next month. I love helping my students with complex communication disorders find a way to express their needs, wants, and thoughts. Our SLPs have master's degrees and are nationally certified, or in the case of our SLP interns, working on certification from the American Speech Language Hearing Association. As part of this process, we must be supervised for 9 months after graduation and pass a rigorous comprehensive exam. The certification is not required by AISD for employment, but it provides assurance to families that we have the knowledge, skills, and experience to provide high-quality services for their students, and it indicates that we actively engage in ongoing professional development. In spite of all that, we are not reimbursed for the cost of our ASHA certification, nor are we awarded the $2,000 annual stipend that nationally board-certified teachers receive. I request the trustees to consider providing the speech passes, stipend, and reimbursing our annual costs to maintain our Cs. This will be a positive consideration for hiring and retaining SLPs. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I respectfully request the board increase the bilingual stipend to include SLPs. We are fortunate to be able to provide speech therapy services in Spanish, but we are having trouble attracting and retaining bilingual SLPs as they can make more money elsewhere in the region. An increase in the bilingual stipend for SLPs would demonstrate that AISD means it when we say all means all. In an informal survey among my colleagues, over 90% of us report that our workload is no longer manageable. Our pay is among the lowest in the region for school-based SLPs, and I'm increasingly disheartened. SLPs seem to be the forgotten piece of the AISD team. For example, it's hard to find a quiet, confidential space to work with students, even though our services are mandated through IDEA law. We respectfully ask the trustees to consider raising our salaries and improving our workload. I think a climate survey for special education itinerant staff would be helpful. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. The last speaker is on item 13.5, resolution of Austin Independent School District regarding the acquisition of property for the modernization of the Hill Elementary School campus. And that's Jared Brackenridge. Jared? Jared? Jared, you're...
My turn? What am I talking about this time? I forgot.
He's visiting with the SLP.
Is it?
The item 13.5, the AISD resolution regarding acquisition property for Hill Elementary School.
So this one has to do with Hill Elementary School getting additional modernization type stuff. I actually had the chance, after I signed up to speak, to look and see if the bond actually said that that's what it was supposed to get. And as I see it, I believe it did actually. So with that being said, I just want to know why you guys chose to close 4 schools in comparison to expanding this school. And as Dr. Cruz said earlier, you guys are going to be building 4 more schools. And so it's like we're building, but we're shutting down. And it's just kind of not making sense why certain parts of town are getting schools, but ours are closing, and just things like that. I can't echo it enough. It's disgusting, abominable, it's nasty. I urge you guys to reconsider. I know Jamie Mathias isn't gonna wanna do that because he has other things going on, and several of you guys over there, well, not several, 1 or 2 or something like that I know of. We still digging though, but it's okay. Hope you guys can reconsider your decision to close those schools, because it was not equitable that we should all bear that responsibility in East Austin, and as black people and brown people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. This concludes public testimony. Trustees, are there any questions or clarifications that you would like to make? Trustee Wagner and then Trustee Taish, and then trustee Letitia Anderson, and then trustee Jamie Mathias.
I'd like to request as we get into budget planning season to make sure that we've got a very clear line item breakout for delivering a competitive wage to all of our special education personnel, particularly the SLPs who were not included in the previous pay increase, so that we can very specifically discuss that and call that out in our budgeting process. The other thing I'd like to understand too is to potentially get updated check-ins from our special education departmental leadership to understand how the implementation of the new service management software that that all special education professionals are using now is impacting workday and workflow, so that we can get updates to understand how that's impacting larger outcomes and goals against our strategic scorecard.
Trustee Tice.
I'd like to echo the request that Trustee Wagner made, and then also I think it would be helpful to the public to place on our website where our innovative courses that we approved tonight, should we approve them, be available, at which high schools they will be available, to see whether or not they are being distributed equitably across the district. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Tice. Trustee Letitia Anderson.
So I may have asked this before, but I'll ask it again because I don't know where it is in my email. I would like to know what is the caseload and the workload for an SLP in this district.
Okay. Trustee Mathias.
Sure, I just want to take a moment to commend our SLPs, especially for the emotional intelligence that they bring to our district and to our affairs. You know, when they have questions and concerns, they approach their trustees. They invite us to sit down and to speak through questions and concerns. A real model for all of us in the district who might have questions or concerns. Don't be afraid to reach out to your trustees and to accept their invitations to lunch or to coffee or breakfast to talk about what might be on your mind.
Trustees, any other comments or issues? I think for Dr. Cruz, I just want to add one more and echo on the SLP piece, because I'm not sure if I went, Trustee Wagner, when you talked about, did you say salary comparisons or salary competitive salaries?
I asked to as we're entering budget planning, to have a specific line item breakout for what, looking at the discrepancies between salaries for SLPs within Austin ISD as well as other special education personnel against peer districts and within our region as well. So a little bit more specificity there, but that's what I would like to see, what it would take for us budget-wise to be able to attain those goals.
Got it. And I would just add, Dr. Cruz, to that, in case, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'd just like to ask the question of whether there's any salary compression issues, because I know this board has been interested in that issue in general for the entire budget for this coming year. And so I think that's an important issue. It's an important issue. So trustees, any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, thank you all very much. And we will now move to the consent agenda. Are there any consent items that trustees would like to pull for a separate vote? Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Ellens, Trustee Mathias, and Trustee Anderson. And Tice. Okay.
So,
and Trustee Tice.
Hold on. So unless there is objection from the trustees, the consent motion will not include item 10.5, which is being pulled and will appear on a future agenda. So.
Okay, so item 10.5 has been pulled for a later agenda. Trustee Mathias.
Happy to pull for conversation a separate vote. Item 8.1, development and design of a health careers program for grades 9 through 12 at AISD's James Bowie High School.
Okay, 3.1. Is there a
Second.
a second for that one?
Second.
So Trustee Teich seconded that. Okay. Trustee Letitia Anderson.
Trustee Matthias took it. I was going to request to pull 8.1 as well.
Just to clarify, is that 8.1?
8.1, you
Okay.
already got it.
Got it. I'm sorry. I heard 3.1 for whatever reason. So thank you for the clarification. Trustee Teich.
I was going to ask to pull 8.1 also.
So that had a second, a third, and a fourth. Any others, trustees? Okay, so Secretary Ellens, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So I make a motion to approve consent agenda items 8.2 through 10.4, 11.1 through 12.2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Letitia Anderson. You give me just a second here. Trustees, is there any discussion on these consent items? Trustee Singh.
Hi, yes. I would like to just request a little bit of information on 11.5, which was the web primary and TA Brown boundary change. It sounds like it makes sense to me. I just wanted just like a very short, like 3 to 5 sentence summary of the work that's been done with those two communities over the last year or so, and what kind of preparation they've had for this exciting change.
Absolutely. So with this particular item was already included in the previous plan for our schools. What we've been doing is when we had the groundbreaking, we had both schools there. We have been having different activities where both schools come together. Today, when we actually took a tour of the school, we have leadership from both campuses touring the new T.A. Brown Elementary School. I'll ask Mr. Gilbert Hicks if he wants to address this or if I want to add anything else to it about more how we've been working with T.A. Brown Elementary School and also with Webb Primary coming together now and be at school at the same site at the new T.A. Brown, which will open up in January. Is there anything else, Mr. Hicks, that you wanted to add to what I just mentioned?
You know, the CAT teams have been working together over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years to plan together for the opening of the school. And yes, there have been many activities together with Webb Primary and T.A. Brown, and there's a lot of excitement within the community about coming together. And the CACs have been meeting together, and there's lots of involvement between the two schools over the past couple of years.
Thank you. And I did think of one more question. It's kind of my usual question for this type of thing is, I know the schools are about 1.5 miles apart, I believe. Is that correct? I mean, they're pretty close. And so is this consolidation going to put more students in that infamous inconvenience zone where they're sort of too close for an AISD school bus, but it's kind of too far to really walk, or very inconvenient to walk?
I'm not sure on the actual, as far as within the transportation area or that type of, that's not quite 2 mile zone. I know when we actually created Webb Primary, it was the students that were closer to I-35 within the Webb area, but I don't know exactly within the 2 mile radius.
You know, because T.A. Brown is on 183, that is a hazardous pathway that defines some of the transportation parameters. So I'll tell you, we haven't received any complaints about the transportation plans, and so parents appear to be in sync with what the plans are for transportation in the area.
Thank you. And I had another agenda item that I was wondering about, and it is related to 12.2, which is personnel actions. I'm not going to, call out any specific personnel, so I believe this will be okay to discuss. But I noticed that we had what seemed to me a little bit higher number of resignations in the last month or so from staff in the special education department. I know that's typically harder to staff for us as a district, and I think we heard a little bit today from the public comment to give a little bit of insight on that, but I just wanted to know, I mean, am I correct in saying that this just seemed like a little bit of an uptick in resignations in that particular department? And what are we as a district doing, or what plans might we have about that?
As far as any type of change, I'll ask Dr. Medina to come forward to address this particular item.
Dr. Medina's on.
All right. All right, so as he's, or Dr. Robinette, if you want to come up and address staffing unless Dr. Medina comes up. I can say what we're doing as far as with, when we have any area where we have more resignations coming up, we do look at salary, we look at compensation. We do see to make sure that in this particular area, not only are we looking at compensation, but we're also looking at caseload. And also working with our leadership within the special education department as well, to make sure that we're addressing any type of concerns or issues that are coming up. But that's in discussion with leadership within special education, making sure that we're addressing the needs that we may have. Dr. Medina, the specific question was just around, probably just sort of asked you about that one, is around special education. Is that a higher number of special education resignations? There are more vacancies because we had more services and more needs that came up towards the end of the summer. So I believe there were many teaching assistant positions that were requested and other additional positions that were requested. So that's on the vacancy side. The question is right now on the resignation side.
Yes, Dr. Cruz, Fernando Medina, Chief Human Capital Officer. We are seeing an uptick in resignations from our special education department for different reasons. The one that we spoke about or we listened to tonight was about compensation. And we continue to work with our partner Education Austin on a compensation plan. I will share with you that we've known about this particular gap in terms of this particular pay grade. And I would ask the board to consider that the SLPs are part of a pay grade that needs to be increased in order for us to come up to market. And so as we present to the board, I understand that the board would like to learn a little bit more about those compression areas. And this is one of several areas. We've worked with Education Austin over the years to identify and prioritize different areas. This one has not made its way, to the top. There are other areas as well. We also know that our teacher salary entry pay scale is hurting us, particularly as the board begins to look at scorecard items around hiring highly effective teachers, experienced teachers at our striving campuses. We know that our data shows that over 80% of our hires are 0 to 5 years of experienced teachers. And that happens because after 5 years of experience, our pay scale drops and it remains flat in many areas. So when you look at, that's just one of several examples of our practices that we have in place that really prohibits us from even being able to recruit and staff at the level that we need to staff. So the request that I will be bringing is about $6 million worth of requests to be able to bring us up to even benchmark with our other districts. But again, that's not something I can do alone. It happens with our partner, with Education Austin. And we try to work in good faith. However, we don't always, I don't always get to choose what I believe is best for our district.
I appreciate that explanation, and I really appreciate what the district is doing to try to invest in our staff salaries. In addition to that, thinking about, you made a brief mention about the working conditions, or, we have been hearing about that tonight a little bit. One idea that I've been hearing from some teachers in special education is this idea of having ARD facilitators as helping to decrease the workload. I don't know if that's something that we offer in our school district or are considering offering, and if we were to do that, would ARD facilitators need to be special education teachers, like special ed certified, or could you get a teacher who has had some training in this area, or what would that look like?
I have used in my prior experience, we engage with having ARD facilitators. And while it does reduce potentially the workload, those positions are also a challenge to fill. one of the things that we want to consider is that oftentimes it also takes some of our strongest teachers from the classroom for them to become art facilitators. And typically you want your most experienced people that from a legal standpoint can put in a lot of safeguards and consistency and practice into that work. I have also had prior experience where it was a challenge to fill those positions as well, because not all teachers want to leave the classroom. Certainly, I don't know if, let's see, is Aquita, Dr. Hickman, if she's here, her experience with art facilitators, but it is something that we have been discussing, over the years.
It actually is in our request, and as part of school changes, the thing that doesn't quite make all the headlines is that there's actually a scenario specifically that Dr. Hickman put forward with Dr. Goodnow around improving services for special education students. Now, to do this, it's going to take a reinvestment of funds in some situations. But within that schools changes scenario, it's one of the three that were district-wide. One was improving around academic excellence and equity. The second one was around strategic staffing, and the third was around special education services and improving those needs. So a lot of the issues that have been coming up, and many others that Dr. Hickman has already identified, we want to bring in additional supports and resources to serve our students in the best way. And art facilitators, I believe that's something
Yes.
you've already brought forward to.
Yes, it's
for
in the
next year.
school changes scenario that we've proposed. Good evening. I guess you all know me by now, but I'm Dr. Hickman. But we have proposed that within the school changes scenario, and it is to alleviate some of the logistical work. I think that one thing we have to be clear about, it doesn't remove a teacher from an IEP meeting. That is a required member. They will still have to develop goals. They'll still have to progress monitor and implement those goals, but some of the logistics, planning, scheduling, ensuring the paperwork is in compliance would be removed, and we have included that as a phase-in part of our school scenario for school changes for special ed. And I've seen it to be very successful with the right training and support for accountability.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Trustee Letitia Anderson.
I have a comment and a question. Dr. Hickman, I just want to say the facilitated R's that I've been in have been some of the best since I've been in this district. Some of the best. It's not a mindset of us versus them. It gives everybody an opportunity to give feedback and to listen, not to reply, but listen to understand, and then everybody comes to an agreement. It's not a parent walking in feeling like, the art meeting is being dominated by the district. So my hat's off to you for that. I love it. Thank you. And so, Dr. Medina, I know I might ruffle some feathers with this, but resignations related to special education, how much of that is some that don't want to be held accountable?
Honestly, that would be a very subjective. I honestly do not have the data to support any kind of statement around that. I'd imagine that I know that Dr. Hickman is implementing a lot of change, and I know that is challenging, and I can see how some individuals may not be up for that change, and certainly Dr. Hickman and I have discussed that over time. But I don't have the data to support any statement, behind that.
Thank you for trying to answer it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, trustees. Any other, Trustee Ellens?
Hi, this is a different subject, so I'm not going to dismiss you. That's his job. But my question is on item, really the facilities amounts in the different contracts. So specifically, I would ask Dr. Cruz, can you walk me through item 11.4, which is coming in about 250 million under budget. 1,000, sorry. I was thinking bond. 250,000 under budget.
Thank you very much.
So I'm just trying to understand, there's a lot of conversation around bond contingency and what the process looks like. So we have a couple here today that are actually over budget. We have a couple that are under budget. And so I have in my head what I think happens, but I would love to hear what you think happens. Or you think happens.
Good evening, Bob Servian, Executive Director of Construction and Facilities. I'm going to apologize for my voice early. Cedar and I are having a disagreement right now. We have two of the Rodriguez came 6,500 over, and then the other two came in under bid, and a lot of that has to do with what those projects may be, whether they be roofing, whether they be mechanical, and how those trades are overburdened or underburdened. So that's not unusual to have that type of swing within the same bid packages. Right now, we are seeing some of our roofing coming in a little bit under, especially this time of year. Most districts don't put out to bid their roofing contracts this time of year. We've been very aggressive in that, and by doing so, we've gotten good pricing back on a lot of our roofing projects. So we've seen that as a bonus for us. When we're 6,500, you're in that kind of ballpark. That's a pretty good estimate on how close you are. We do have each project has its own built-in contingency for unforeseen conditions, so that little bit of overage will be easily absorbed within that total project cost.
Sorry, that's kind of what I'm asking. So when you have $250,000 for one specific project, that came in under, my understanding would be that money would sit with that project until everything is done with that project, just in case something may come up through the work.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so at the end of that, if there is still leftover money, where does it go? Into, my understanding, but correct me, is it goes into the overall, the proposition that was there, it goes into that contingency for those projects.
Correct. And so we've been working with bond counsel over the last years there's two different sort of actions as it relates to contingency. There's project contingency, there's roll-up program contingency, and then there is the redesignation of surplus bond funds. General counsel has advised that we wait till the program is substantially complete, because we have to satisfy our contract with voters. Otherwise, if we don't substantially complete the projects that are anticipated when voters ratify the bond program, it could degrade our trust with voters. It also can lead to sort of call into question future bond authorizations. So our general counsel works with us to ensure that any reappropriation of surplus bond funds are consistent with the proposition. That's sort of the legal threshold, right? And we work with our CBOC to redesignate those projects for sort of new projects that were not contemplated when the original bond was ratified by voters. So there's program contingency, which we utilize to execute the bond. Once the bond is substantially complete, if there is a new designation of a site or a new reauthorization of a project that was not originally proposed or contemplated when the board, voters ratified the bond, we go to the CBOC, and then we come to the board to reassign those surplus dollars. And so I think there's some language that is sort of challenging us. We move sort of contingency funds around many times to execute the bond. But once we have true surplus, and that doesn't happen until the bond program is substantially complete, meaning that we feel with good confidence that we've delivered on all the projects that the public voters expect of us, then we reauthorize those unspent surplus dollars for new projects and new needs across the district.
So for the $250,000 we're talking about here, it would stay with that project till it was complete. Then it would go to the proposition until it was complete. And within that movement, it never comes back to the board or even to the CBOC through those two steps.
Until we redesignate the funding for new projects, or there's a substantial change, meaning there's a site change, or the project, like in the case where we no longer moved forward with repairing the fields at the original Anderson site, and we prepared the turf at the House Park. So substantial scope changes and new sites are what we sort of bring to the CBOC, and we get them to sort of weigh in on the proposed reallocation of bond dollars that are unspent.
Okay.
We are having discussions with the CBO, so this has recently come up to question as to whether or not we want to put tolerance levels as it relates to program contingency. So we're going to have, that's a policy decision that we're discussing with the CBOC to get their thinking behind it. Of course, I think that they're erring on the side that they want to have some level of being able to review and provide guidance at certain levels. And we don't know if it's spend or what level of interval of spend that they would like to sort of weigh in.
Well, that's all I just kind of wanted. There's a lot out there, so I just kind of wanted to make sure my head was in the right place and understanding all this. Okay, thank you very much. The other question that I had was also about the innovative courses, item 8.3. And first of all, I just really want to commend the district for being adventurous. Usually there may be 3, and there are quite a bit here, and I really want to call out the ones around health and fitness and mind and body. And I'm proud that we're thinking about the whole child in new ways. I would too also, if we're going to post the list of who's taking advantage of those, I would love to know when that happens, or if we could get a list of those, because lots of times they will come as an innovative course for one specific school. These are looking different today, so if you want to come talk about it.
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Lisa Goodnow could bring in these courses forward.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to quickly let you know that as we move forward, we'll see how many students, and this really did come as a request from our fantastic PE department chairs and staff. And so as the course sheets are populated and we start seeing which courses we'll make, but I anticipate that many of them will, and we'll be able to put that on our website.
So are pretty much every course open to the different levels, and it's up to those schools to make those
for the health and PE? Yes, I think there might be some. There's the sports officiating might have some slightly different requirements, but they are we're offering a sports officiating course so students could make money in the summer serving as officials.
They're very creative, and I'd be interested to know. And I would hope we're marketing them, because a lot of times parents will not know and students will not know that they're out there. So thank you for this good work.
Thank you, trustees. Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda items? If not, having a motion by Secretary Ellens and a second by Trustee Letitia Anderson to approve consent agenda items 8.2 through 10.4 and 11.1 through 12.2, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes by all those on the dais. Now for the items that were pulled from the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve agenda item 8.1?
So moved.
Trustee Tice.
Second.
And is there a second? Wait, Trustee Wagner. Is there any discussion, trustees? Trustee Letitia Anderson and then Trustee Tice.
So here's my concern. If I'm not mistaken, isn't Bowie over-enrolled? And so we're talking about possibly putting a health career program there, and it's already over-enrolled. Correct?
Not around over-enrolled, and these are part of our, and Dr. Craig Shapiro, Associate Superintendent for High Schools, can come on up and give the details in here. This is actually overall part of a year-by-year plan of implementing career launch opportunities. So we started early college high schools at LBJ, and at that time Reagan, and now Northeast. We then started at these same schools, we started career launch. One on health professions at LBJ, and then we started cybersecurity at Northeast. We then start building out the career launch program at our different high schools. And that's what you see today is then the build out of that continuation of those certifications. Let me ask Dr. Shapiro to add additional. And these are not necessarily for, we do have a student sharing program, which brings us in as well, where students can actually remain at their home campus and take classes at some of these other opportunities at different high schools, and that's part of the student share program. But these programs are at these schools, and students can come back and forth, but actually still stay enrolled in their schools. But Dr. Shapiro, more on this with Career Launch.
Good evening. I'm Craig Shapiro, the Associate Superintendent for High Schools, and that is correct. The concept here is that... Push the mic button, please. I'm sorry. Better? Very. The concept here is that when we opened up career launches, we're doing them around the city. In the field of health careers, we as a district cannot fulfill the needs of our hospital system across the city. We would need a number of programs. In fact, if all of our graduates decided to go into health careers, we still would not fulfill the needs of our hospital systems with the different license areas. In the case of Bowie, this is not a plan to increase enrollment for them or draw students. It's to take current students there and work with Baylor Scott and White on enhancing the program that they currently have to make it career launch-like, where they can earn level 1 certifications. That does not preclude the others, like LBJ's program, or the one that we're developing now for Eastside Memorial, or there is a couple of other hospital networks that are working with us to open up even more south and north. The concept really behind Career Launch is to convert our current CTE, career and tech opportunity availability right now, and upgrade them so that they are connected not only to the university and can get a dual credit or an associate's degree, but also earn the certifications and then have those job opportunities at the end. It's to convert as many as we can over time. And as the companies come to us or we go out and seek them, you will start to see these kinds of partnerships develop.
So here's my concern. So you have the health science at LBJ, you say you're putting it at Eastside. And so you say it's for the school, but you're effectively gonna affect the District 1 schools. I mean, come on now. Like, I'm fighting to try to get more programming such as manufacturing, welding. I'm trying to get that in District 1 because we don't have that. And what you are essentially doing, we trying to build up health science at LBJ. The students want to feel comfortable about the program, and then you want to put it at Bowie. So you're gonna hurt the programs that you're trying to implement on this side of town, on my side of town. East side, you're gonna hurt it. LBJ, you're gonna hurt it. And I know you say it's for the students at Bowie, but come on now. So you're gonna, so I hope you have a plan to build those programs up, because my concern is, once again, you're gonna hurt the one at LBJ, you're gonna hurt the one coming for Eastside by just putting it there. You're gonna, I hope you got a plan. And I'm gonna echo again. I want to see more programming for District 1. We want welding, we want manufacturing. Look where you have to go for cosmetology. There are kids that are interested in that and not specifically interested in health science. And to add on to that, if you're looking for things related to health science, why not have it where students get on the path to get an undergrad from medical records? That's what I'm doing. You could take it a step further. Do you know how much medical billers and coders make? And so, but please have a plan so that if this does pass for Bowie, you have a plan to support LBJ and Eastside, because it's gonna hurt those programs. And please look for other programming for District 1, please. And that means elementary, middle, and high school, because not everybody wants to do health science. Thank you.
And I just want to say in agreement with Trustee Anderson, what she's mentioning. I just want to put another part that was part of the bond, and that's how we actually build a health profession school. That school is going to be located on the LBJ Early College High School. And part of the new Northeast Middle School is that they actually have a STEM, maybe turn into STEAM to bring in the arts, but they have the STEM approach at that middle school. But that, and I believe that's the only one in Central Texas that we would create, is a health profession school. We're going to continue Career Launch. So this is not in lieu of, this is in addition to Early College High School at LBJ, Career Launch and Health Professions, that partnership with Dell. But then we would also bring in the Health Professions High School to do exactly what you just mentioned, for students who want to pursue a certification, a degree, advanced degree, or all of the above, but would be located on the LBJ site. If I remember, it's about, I don't remember, over $20 million to actually build that particular site.
We have Trustee Tyke, and then Trustee Mathias, and then Trustee Wagner.
I'm going to ask for a clarification. I have several questions. The first one is, Dr. Shapiro, did you indicate in your remarks that Bowie already has a health science program?
Most of our high schools have a somewhat of a nursing program, or they have some courses. So what would happen here is that we would upgrade this to solidify a pathway, a certification to certifications.
But does Bowie specifically have
I don't have my notes in front of me to say if they're converting or we're adding.
Okay, and it already has 10+ signature programs. They're closed, is that correct, to student sharing or anybody else coming in, is that correct, at Bowie?
10, I am not aware of having 10 signature programs over at Bowie.
That was my understanding. So if we could get some clarification about how many
share that
programs there are.
Mm-hmm.
And then whether or not, I mean, we're talking about Southwest Austin, and we've got a school, Crockett High School, that's in South Austin. And was it ever considered, does it have health science programs, or was it ever considered for this kind of programming?
No, Crockett was not on the list. In some cases, when we get a business partner that wants to work with us, we look at a proximity between where the business is located and the school itself. So in this case, Baylor Scott and White heard about the program that we had at LBJ, and they're opening up a clinic or a building in Oak Hill. And they came to us and asked us if we would be willing to partner with them in a very similar fashion as we do with LBJ. So in this case, that partnership, they came to us to ask us. In the case of Crockett right now has the construction trades program over there, and that's the one that they're working on currently. Usually you would want 1 or 2 programs developing per site at any one time.
Right. I also think, and also just to add in with Crockett, it also is an early college high school, and also they have was our very first entrepreneurial program.
Correct.
While that was started as you were principal at that school. So this is part of just the overall plan when we bring in Career Launch, and early college high schools are school-wide. These are just within a certification approach for 3 to 4 classes where a student can earn a certification.
So what you're describing to me is not a full-blown health science program, is that correct? That's not what's being anticipated for Bowie? It's being just select courses that students can choose?
The program that we're looking at Bowie is a pathway that leads to a level 1 certification in a couple of medical areas. That's what we're looking at.
Okay, well, I'm going to lift up Navarro Early College High School, which has all of these programs that have been described so far. It has a Health Science Institute, it has welding, it has all these things, and cosmetology, I might add. And it and Crockett are the only 2 schools in the district that have cosmetology. And we have student sharing because of that. So how are we going to provide, let's say, opportunities for students maybe at Crockett to go take these courses at Bowie? Is if they want to do that, is that student sharing a possibility?
Yes, student sharing would absolutely be a possibility.
And it would not cause any kind of overcrowding at that school?
No.
Which is, I'm assuming, it is still over-enrolled? Is
yes.
that correct?
Correct.
So I'm going to go back to Navarro. Navarro has received a lot of support for its career and technical education programs, which many people don't know about. It's got a full array. And I'm very proud of that, but I would also like to share that with the rest of the high schools in the district. So I would encourage, as Trustee Anderson was saying, I would encourage us to look at offering some of these other programs in our high schools, north and south, east and west. Because I know we have several students, well, many, I wouldn't say many, but some students from Anderson who come to Navarro for the cosmetology program, et cetera, and then they go back and forth. Northeast has some programs that students take advantage of, and it would be helpful, I think, to have a more robust student sharing program. That said, sometimes transportation is an issue in getting students back and forth. So I would like for us to perhaps, Dr. Cruz, in our budget deliberations, figure out a way to mitigate some of the transportation issues, or to provide more programming at our high schools so that our students, particularly those who have difficulty with transportation, et cetera, have an opportunity to take the full array of career and technical education programs that we have available in the district. I still have concerns about, I know we're in early stages of this program at Bowie, about the level of detail, and I appreciate your letting us know that Baylor Scott and White contacted us because of the proximity of their clinic that they're opening in Oak Hill. I think that makes a lot of sense. That helps me understand better why Bowie was being considered. And then you're saying they're open to student sharing. Yes. So if Crockett students want to go, or Aiken students want to go, or Travis students want to go, since this is a South program, they would be allowed to do that. And then I'm going to reiterate the priority that we need to make on providing transportation for these students so that they can make it over to this program. I'll rest at this point.
Now, when we started student sharing, we did provide transportation. So I'll ask Dr. Shapiro, is that something we have to revisit in the budget, or that's still as an offering that we do provide transportation?
We still provide transportation for those students who
for
wish
student
to.
Sharing.
Yes.
So that we actually do. So because they'll take it. It depends when the class is offered, but might take it first, second, third, fourth block, or if it's a B day. So we provide transportation to and from, and students actually want to and remain enrolled in their home campus. So that's what we found at that time, that students wanted to take a class or to a pathway, a collection of 3 to 4 classes, but didn't want to move from their home high school. So this was something in between that gave students that opportunity, but we do provide transportation.
Trustee Mathias?
I appreciate the staggering data point that you shared, that if all of our 2020 graduates went into health sciences careers, that we would still not be able to meet the needs of the Central Texas market. My concern, though, is Bowie the right place for this program? That is to say, my understanding is that Bowie has several programs that are closed to student sharing, including finance, commercial photography, animation, graphic design, aerospace engineering, culinary arts. I could go on and on. The only program that is open to student sharing at present, if I'm not mistaken, is their law program, which is only open to students of the junior ROTC. So what we're hearing you say on the one hand is that this program is going to be open to student sharing. The question, at least in this trustee's mind, is why Bowie? Why not Crockett? Why not Travis? Why not some other place that is not over-enrolled? I understand the Oak Hill connection, don't get me wrong, but couldn't we go to our friends at Baylor Scott and White and let them know we are so appreciative to them for their generous offer, that we'd love to house it at a school like Crockett or Travis? At least in the mind of this trustee, it's striking a nerve within me that resembles the Anderson Applied Technology Center. It's sort of like when opportunities present itself, does that mean that we as trustees have to necessarily jump at those opportunities as presented, and or is there a way for us as a district to be more strategic? And this is where I tread carefully, because I don't want in any way to deprive the students of Bowie, our Bowie Bulldogs who we celebrated earlier in this meeting. We don't want to deprive them of any opportunities. It's simply, now that the equity sheriff is in town, how do we make sure that we're really looking at this through an equity lens? How do we make sure that we are creating equity across the district between schools east of the highway, north of the river, south of the river, and west of the highway? So certainly welcome anything. Right now, this trustee, I can't get behind this insofar as they're veritable concerns, particularly with respect to equity, but I'm happy for administration to address.
At this time, I can't talk about where I'm in negotiations now, but there will be other programs opening north and south with reference to health careers. So there are more hospital systems negotiating with us now on opening their own programs. We already have Dell Medical, we already have Baylor Scott & White, and we already have Seton Ascension. But there are others that have come forward to ask us to work with them as well. And so those programs I can't announce correct right now, but I will in the future of bringing those forward to you for the consideration. So there will be more opportunities opening south and north.
So in terms of the timing, is there a reason why we need to approve this month rather than wait for those partnerships to be coming to the board as well?
There isn't a rush on this one. However, the plan for the fall to make sure that we have classes opening and we do the budgeting to open for fall of next year, that would be the reason why it's brought before you right now.
Final question, would we need to do anything with respect to facilities? So as we think about queuing up another bond, would this imply certain facility needs as part of our next bond?
On most of our career launch programs, what we do is we use the current rooms in the building and we convert them. In this case, when we are Bowie's going through a bond right now, as a part of that construction, they would have built in a room like we do at LBJ at Bowie. So it would be part of their design as they're moving forward.
Thank you.
Trustee Wagner.
Okay. Well, Trustee Mathias actually asked several of the questions that were on my mind. I wanted to dig a step deeper on the programs that you mentioned, other health sciences programs that will be brought forward before too long with other partners. Do you anticipate that those other programs will be comparable in size and scope to what the offering is for Bowie that we're considering tonight?
Yes.
Would any of them be more significant or larger, or
the way the way I see it right now is that the hospitals as a consortium are coming together to align to having certain degrees, certain certifications. Mm-hmm. Working together with them, we're opening different programs across the city. I wouldn't say that one would be more of a flagship than another. I think that you're going to have similar degrees, similar programs across the city. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't be one where there would be the best or this one has a, quote, higher rank. But I see the certifications about the same across all of the city.
And am I understanding correctly that the certifications that would be offered, the pathways, as you mentioned them, are pharmacy tech and phlebotomist would be the two that would be coming to Bowie through this program?
Correct.
One thing that, a couple of points that I come back to is in this discussion as I'm considering this is, first is that nothing like this exists at Bowie currently. Bowie is our largest high school in the district. It's more than twice the size of some of our high schools. And if we are going down the path of trying to implement health sciences at every one of our high schools, which is what I'm understanding you're telling me is the goal, it would be, I think we would have a particular gap if our largest high school did not have that as an offering, particularly a high school that doesn't have an academy or an institute or anything like that as part of it that is a generalized high school. So that is something I think that's important for us to consider as we're thinking about a larger master plan for offerings in high schools. Where this is a little bit challenging though, and one thing I think that would be helpful for the board to see is that if there is a larger high school strategy for how we want to bring comparable programming and consistent programming across high schools to make sure that there is not only parity between high schools but also equity between high schools, that I think would be really helpful for the board to be able to see how this fits into that larger context. The other thing I wanted to ask about as well is that when we sat on this dais in 2017 and discussed the facilities master plan and discussed the plan for LBJ. One of the things that I was very much in favor of and spoke very strongly about was that I did not want to see LBJ merely have a pathway program or a few classrooms set up to facilitate some coursework. I really wanted to see them become another DeBakey like we have in Houston, or to see it truly become a magnet or a real true flagship program for the district in health sciences. Really not only as trying to cement something that was that strong in a community that would particularly benefit from it, but also making sure that we're continuing to grow demand and enrollment in our high schools. As I see us starting to distribute this throughout the district rather than really placing energy in concentrating that and growing that at a particular campus, again, that brings you back to the strategic piece, and I'm wondering if you would mind speaking to that and what our plans are there.
Sure. The health profession school, which is going to go in when LASA moves to the new location and gives us the space. We have over $20 million in a budget to construct a 21st century facility that will support a health profession school. And I think it would be important to describe the difference. A health profession school was going for tier 1 universities for a medical license, whereas Career Launch allows a student to earn an associate's degree in employment. I don't see this as a difference in the sense that the two schools the two programs in the school would be conflicting. You're going to have students moving back and forth between the two programs as they learn about them. The issue that I have is that you're bringing up is the issue of equity, and I think that if you saw all of the different programs, the 17 that are either proposed or in development or are going to open by 21, I think you would see that they are all over the district, and that the plan really is to have these types of programs in all of our high schools. One of the most important things that we could do is show students and staff and our families about the 6 C's. And this truly is a program that not only talks to the issue of having these pathways, it also changes the instructional practice to prepare kids for the workforce. And so we see this as an opportunity not only to create pathways, but also change instructional practice to align to 21st century skills, the 6 C's, communication, collaboration, and so forth. So I don't see that the program would suffer at all by having multiple programs and multiple sites sponsored by different hospitals. The other reason why you might want to go this direction is because of capacity at each of the hospitals. One hospital by itself could not handle all of the kids coming for internships and for job shadowing and et cetera, because of the rules and regulations regarding the number of students that could be at a work site at any one time. So you're going to need multiple partners and multiple schools to start to hit the capacity and the needs of each individual school. Finally, the issue of how fast we can open them. There is a capacity to opening a Career Launch program that we learned about with LBJ and when we did the Reagan/Northeast program, of having the logistical conversations, mentoring, and so forth. So they will develop over time, and they will be replicated across the district. But my hope would be that when this is done, all of the CTE career and tech programs will have this pathway of high school, college, associate's degree, or bachelor's degree with the licenses, with an opportunity for a job interview at the end. That would be the goal for all of our CTE programs as we move forward.
Thank you.
Trustee Tice and then Trustee Singh.
I still have some concerns about, well, number one, I appreciate the question that Trustee Wagner raised about the overall plan. I understand wanting to take advantage of offers from our various medical partners. Is there a rush to take advantage of this? Do we have to do this right away? And I think that was a question that Trustee Matthias also raised. Do we have to do this now? Then my second question has to do, why not at Crockett before Bowie? And then my third question is, how much support will Baylor Scott and White offer? Because realistically, when you have these kinds of programs, you're talking about specialized staff. You have to renovate the classrooms. If you're just going to use classrooms, you have to renovate the classrooms to some degree. Although if you're just going to offer phlebotomy and what was the other course that was pharmacy tech, there's not a major renovation unless you want to provide some kind of an idea of what it's like to operate in a situation where you are drawing blood with multiple people around and that kind of thing. So, and that if you want to replicate those kinds of conditions, you'd have to change the built environment. So, do you have an overall plan for expanding these programs across the district that we could look at?
Yes.
Could you send that to us as soon as possible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And why was Crockett not considered for this program?
As I said before, Crockett already is developing their construction trades and entrepreneurship programs.
Is that all they want to be known for?
I'm sorry?
Is that the only signature program they want to be known for? Because I'm going to go back to Navarro, because Navarro has a lot of signature programs.
At one time, Crockett did have a health science program while I was principal at the school, and that program dwindled over time. So the demand for the program dropped as I was spending my years there. If I were to bring a program back into the school, then we would canvass the school and ask for how many students would be interested in that. And if that were the case, then we would find a partner to fill that program.
And then how much support, monetary support, is Baylor Scott and White willing to provide? Because we have some budgetary issues in this district, as everybody knows. And so, if we're going to build out parts of or renovate classrooms at Bowie to accommodate these two early programs, are we expecting any kind of monetary support from them?
In the cases in the past for LBJ's early program and others, we have gotten complete support from our partners. For example, at LBJ, they provided all of the beds, they provided all of the equipment and supplies to us. When they closed Brackenridge, we were given all of that equipment. Baylor Scott and White's also pledged to do similar work with us as we move forward and design what these pathways are going to be. So that partnership develops over time, and that when we ask for items, they will come forward. The partners usually do come forward and provide not only financial support, but equipment, plus the mentoring, plus the access to the professionals as they do internships and job shadowing.
So I'm going to return back to Crockett and other schools that don't have a health science pathway. You mentioned the great need that we have in this area and then across the country for healthcare. It seems like this needs to be communicated to our high schools so that they understand or to our students in particular, that they understand that these are there's a spectrum of jobs in healthcare, medical coding being one of them, as Trustee Letitia Anderson referenced. And you don't have to be a nurse or a doctor in order to make a really good living in the medical profession. Also, some of these programs don't require a lot of built environment changes too. So it would be, I think, helpful for all of our high schools to understand the need for developing, if not a pathway in the medical profession, in the healthcare profession, but perhaps adding some classes for some certifications. So is there a plan to do that, to promote this need to our high schools?
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why I believe we're trying to open as many of these programs as possible. The Chamber of Commerce provided us with a list of the new list of jobs that will be available 7 to 10 years from now, and health careers is one of the major ones. And so our role as the high school. Our role as the high school.
Excuse me, Dr. Shapiro. A point of order. If the interruptions continue, I will leave this dais, and I ask that we recess.
Thank you very much, Mr.
I request that we recess.
You had you had a lot of opportunity for comments, but I think we need to respect our speakers and the board. I appreciate that. So that's the first warning. So just so you know, and then Mr. Shapiro, if you would please continue.
I lost my train of thought. I apologize.
So have I, which is the distraction that those kinds of comments make. So we were talking about the Chamber of Commerce, which has
yes, and they have a forecast 7 to 10 years of the industries that will be here, and we're using that as the guide to design and open up these types of career launch programs. So health careers is on the top of the list. Computer science is on the list, et cetera, and that's driving a lot of our partnerships in our, for example, at IBM, at Navarro, or at Dell with cybersecurity. They're coming from that kind of a list. So we're trying to connect kids to those future job opportunities as we develop these CTE programs.
And I'm assuming that you're also doing work with the Workforce Development Commission. They're also making recommendations. It's not just the Chamber of Commerce that does this. So I just want to be sure that we have all of our industries represented, and there are also organizations that represent career and technical education for the state of Texas. They make recommendations to the district, I'm assuming?
Yes, and in fact, I'm on the board of the Workforce Solutions. So I'm working with Tamara Atkinson.
That's Workforce Solutions for the capital area?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not just one group of people that we are listening to.
No.
I just want to be clear about that. Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Tice, well, just one more thing. I just wanted to clarify something Trustee Tice said, and I apologize, Trustee Singh. I had Trustee Cindy Anderson next, but I, for some reason, scratched her name off the list, so I want to have her go first. But before that, I just want to clarify something that Trustee Tice said. Dr. Shapiro, the career launch and the workforce development efforts that you're doing are aligned with what's called a community master plan, which was led by the county judge and the mayor and our community, which determined that for the future, the jobs that require 2 years of technical training or community college that pay on average $50,000 a year were in manufacturing, in healthcare, and in technology. Correct. And you have aligned your career launch with the strategies of our entire community, utilizing that effort to try to increase opportunities and access for individuals and connect our local community to those high demand jobs so that they're able to continue to afford to live in this community. Is that
correct? Is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it might be good to share that report because that came out a few years ago that brought forward this impetus when this plan was being developed, and sharing that plan. I did want to just connect another dot that one of the other school changes that we are going to be working through this year was pre-K to pre-med. And I had a lot of comments saying, why do that? Why do that? It's not necessary. This conversation tells us exactly why it's necessary. Because of what we're looking at, LBJ, career launch, and medical professions. This is specifically, though, in the northeast area of the city. But it was offering then for pre-K, pre-med programs in elementary schools to middle school to high school, because we know this new health professional school was going to come online. So I wanted just to connect that dot, because that's one that, other than maybe some folks are saying, absolutely, it's about time we do it. That was one that was saying, yeah, not so much. Yes, we do need that. I just wanted to connect that particular one on school changes, pre-K to pre-med, that included elementary schools, and then feeding up to middle and the high school.
Okay. Trustee Anderson, and then Trustee Singh, and then Trustee Letitia Anderson.
Since a couple of folks have mentioned Crockett, I just wanted to remind you, which you probably don't need the reminder, but during some of the school changes conversations, there was a great deal of interest from Crockett in being a South Fine Arts magnet. And so I don't want to presume what their other interests are other than that one. I think many of us heard very loud and clear that they had a significant interest in that as an alternative to the Covington 6 through 12. So I hope that we will continue to not just look at the workforce needs, which is obviously very important, but also where there is a very well-articulated level of interest from a school. Because I think one of the things that we've had a little bit of a challenge with, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've been migrating our CTE programs into career launch because they're more substantive in terms of very direct pathways, not just for post-secondary, but also for workforce, but also because there's been such a variance in CTE programs in terms of whether or not classes are able to make consistently. So like when you see the chart on our website for middle school or high school, and you see the schools have the classes, it's not necessarily consistent from year to year if you don't have enough interest from students. And so it's my understanding that the career launch programs are a very different development that's intended to provide a lot more stability and those concrete links to post-secondary and workforce. And so one of the things I was maybe going to suggest as well, because I know I've seen just in the 3 years I've been on the board, a lot of programs come across this dais for approval at probably every single high school, you know, if not multiple times. And I don't know that that's really well articulated on our website right now. And I know you have a lot in development, and I absolutely understand being unable to share things that are still in development, but there's a lot of things I don't think that are shared as well as maybe they could be in terms of, you know, sort of by school, especially those that, you know, being able to differentiate between what is career launch that shows that very definitive pathway, but also those that are open to student sharing, because we've got a great deal of programs across this district that we sometimes forget as we're doing these singles in our votes. And so if there's some way that we could improve that, because I think it also makes a difference for students and families when they're trying to decide if they want to look at schools other than their attendance zone school, to really be able to accurately see what else is available, or if not as a transfer opportunity, a student sharing opportunity, because I know we've struggled in the past as well with ensuring that those are communicated well, and that we build in the transportation, everything else works. You know, it's not competing with other things that are when band or athletics is only offered one period and that's the same period as student sharing, that's been problematic. And so obviously some things to work through, but I think if we can just make sure that we have a little bit better communication overall at the district level on the website to be able to share all of these things that I know you're working very hard at, I think that would be really helpful. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Singh.
Thank you. I truly appreciate that we have so many partners that want to work with our school district, and I appreciate the work that you've been doing to kind of bring us to the forefront. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I don't think there's any school district or charter school or anything in Central Texas that even comes close to a lot of the programs that we're offering, and this is an example of that. But given that, I will say that to me, this conversation is just a shining example of why I feel like we need an equity audit of our, not just for our facilities, but also for our curriculum and courses, because on paper, this looks fantastic. Bowie is a great school. I live about 5 minutes away from this new hospital that's being built in Oak Hill. So, I mean, I like the idea. I just don't feel comfortable supporting it until I have a better sense of the equity behind this. So right now, I mean, I hear how this program is something that's well designed for a lot of the workforce needs in the region, which makes sense. But what I find is consistently missing from some of our conversations is the gaps that we have in our district. And I wish we would start with that. You know, I just I looked up Dr. Hawley's equity report again, and I think there's some really useful principles in here about 5 principles for creating equity by design. And I don't feel like we have really addressed those. I mean, I'm sure you have probably in your work doing this, but we haven't had that conversation as trustees. And so I want us to really bring this to the forefront and start with student needs, not necessarily workforce needs. And so to me, that looks at things like disparities in our graduation rates between our Black and brown students and our white and Asian students. It means looking at how many kids are getting degrees by 6 years out after high school graduation, and identifying really what those gaps are and starting there. And I am appreciative that we have so many wonderful programs all throughout the city. But for me, I feel like I'm still missing that, what's the word I'm thinking? Just kind of just a sort of a bird's eye view of the landscape of where we are and where have we done the asset mapping and everything like that, and sort of overlaid that with student needs and everything like that. And I feel like that's part of what an equity audit would do. So it's not that I'm against this idea, but I'm against moving forward with big things like this without having kind of an objective third-party, some objective third-party guidance on what we're doing here. So that's kind of where I am with this. And I did have one question, which is I know we have a partner identified here, but I wanted to know how much would something like this cost for us in the district to develop and administer a program like this at Bowie?
In the first couple of years, it would cost minimal amount of money. Where it starts to cost us some money is when we get to the dual credit side and the students start going to attend their associate degree plan, and transportation back and forth between Bowie in this case and the hospital, bringing them back for mentoring and for job shadowing and such. So depending on the program and the distance from the school, would drive those kind of costs.
Is that something that maybe we could get at some point, just some estimate, ballparks?
Yes.
Thank you.
Trustee Letitia Anderson.
So as I look at these CTE pathways at Bowie, I'm just going to name a few that District 1 don't have. Ready, Set, Teach. Do you know how long it would take a student in District 1 to get to Aikens or Bowie to participate in that? Apple Academy. I know that Northeast has cybersecurity. I don't remember hearing about no Apple Academy. Business management and administration, finance and banking. Students in District 1 would like to participate in things like that. Once again, it would take a student, if you had to ride the bus out there, you'll never get there. So I'm interested in creating the opportunities for students who don't have programs that look like this. And so while I understand Bowie is the largest high school in the district and they don't have this, but look what they do have. And we don't have that once again. So I'm interested in creating opportunities for those students that don't have it or that have an interest in participating, but the bus ride is just too long. So I'm interested in creating opportunities for students who don't have them. So I can't support bringing forth 8.1. I can't give my support on that.
Thank you. And then Trustee Wagner, and then Trustee Teish.
Well, I appreciate your comments, Trustee Anderson. I totally understand where you're coming from and the intent. There are a couple of things that I just did want to clarify, and I was wondering if Dr. Shapiro might mind touching on, like Ready, Set, Teach. I know we have a really robust Ready, Set, Teach program at Navarro. The one at Aikens actually we've really doubled down on investment with the one at Aikens right now. So I just don't want our community to leave thinking that those programs don't exist in those schools. So, and I think there were a few others. Would you mind just making sure that we're aware of what does exist in those places?
In Ready, Set, Teach, or just in general?
Ready, Set, Teach. I know you also mentioned business management because we've got the entrepreneurship program at Crockett.
Correct.
There were a few others I think that Trustee Anderson touched on, not to refute the need to have rich programming in the schools, particularly in the schools that have been historically underserved. I just want to make sure that we clarify for the record where programs do exist. So.
Depending on the program, schools have a number of different types of programs across the district. Business, marketing, health careers, technical, IT. Again, it doesn't mean that because right now that we have the limited set at a specific school today, doesn't mean that we're not going to force a replication and move those programs around the city as we can. The issue, again, is capacity on the school campus. Right now, LBJ is developing they're going to be developing their career launch and a health profession school. And there is a capacity issue when you're working with not only ACC, and in this case, also the partner, which in Seton Ascension or Dell Medical, and universities, which Houston Tillotson is part of one. So it's not a matter of opening 4 or 5, and we could do that. It's the capacity of the principal and the administration to see that program develop, developing the teachers, getting the materials and supplies in, and making sure the teaching is up to the standard so that the kids are earning the certifications. So it's not lack of will or plan. The real issue for me is how fast we can replicate it, and the stated goal stays the same, that we would convert all our career and technical programs to these types of career opportunities for all students across the district.
Thank you. Trustee Tyson.
I'd like to point out that what we're being asked to approve is a letter of intent, and we have that letter of intent from Baylor Scott and White, and part of that language says this letter of intent is not and shall not be construed by implication or otherwise to be a binding obligation of Baylor Scott and White to complete a business arrangement, and such obligation shall only become binding in the event an authorized representative of BSWH executes a written document evidencing the terms and conditions. So what we're doing, we're in an exploratory phase right now. I'm assuming in this letter of intent, judging from the language I just read, we're not committing the district to implementing these programs. However, you did mention in your remarks that it would be helpful to get this approved so that we could move forward in the fall. So what does moving forward in the fall mean?
It's a soft launch, so that we would start with a cohort of students who might be interested in health careers, and we would give them the principles of that first level of class. And then as this program develops, we could start, when the kids turn into 10th grade, then the program could open by 22, and then you have a full-blown program at that point.
But that's not how I read this letter of intent. I don't see this letter of intent indicating that any classes are going to be formed or any instructors will be hired or anything like that. I see this just as an exploratory item. So, I could support the letter of intent if there is nothing else attached to it at this point until we have the plan that you indicated you had, that we have an idea of the cost. And so, I can support a letter of intent, but from what you're saying, there's more to it than just that. We're going to explore, we're going to have a discussion. So we need to be really clear, board, in what we're voting on here. So I'm going to leave it at that at this point. I can support a letter of intent for people to explore, for us to get more answers to the questions that have been asked, that have been raised about this. But I personally wouldn't support actually the soft launch. But that's not in our language. And that's not what I'm reading in this letter of intent either. So can we get some clarification?
So, Dr. Cruz?
If it's not the board's wishes to move forward, then we would not move forward until you have a full drawn-out plan, which usually ends in an MOU between us, the ACC, and then the business partner. So we could pause on the soft launch, absolutely, and would just delay by almost a year to open, but that would be okay.
Or have the board approve the letter of intent.
Correct.
Come back and with the design and with the questions that come forward, and we can share that information with the board. But this would then at least move forward with the letter of intent. Understanding that we would come back to the board, whether it's information bringing to the board or a discussion to understand how this fits into the overall plan.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate.
Dr. Shapiro? All right.
Yes, sir.
So, Trustee Taish, any additional questions, or can we move to Trustee?
I just want to make sure the board's clear that that's what we would be voting on, and that we would not go any further until we have the answers to all the questions that have been asked tonight. And so is that what we're voting on, is my question. And Dr. Shapiro's indicating that would be acceptable to him. Dr. Cruz, you're indicating that would be acceptable to you.
Absolutely. Actually, I welcome the opportunity to talk about our overall high school strategy, how we're trying to transform high school. So it's not just the high school diploma, it's early college high school, the high school diploma, and a career launch. One of our core beliefs is about making sure our students are ready for college, career, and life. And while those are abstract terms, you see something in front of you that actually then leads in that direction. So we move forward with the approval of a letter of intent. We would come back to the board to discuss the overall program strategy and approach at high schools, which I do think is really good to come back and revisit that. We had brought that by initially a few years ago.
Correct.
Then the other piece is then maybe even connecting the school changes piece around pre-K to pre-med. That's where that one was so important because we knew what was up ahead. We wanted to make sure our kids were ready from elementary, middle, and high to make sure they give them the best opportunity to then apply for this health profession school that we were going to open up in 21, 22, which would be in addition to what's already there at that campus at LBJ.
So, Trustee Ashe.
Dr. Shapiro, thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to answer all of the questions and without notes, I might add. Great job. I think I'm going to echo a little bit that completely respect that you are unable to announce potential other agreements in other high schools in our district. I do think that this kind of speaks back to the overall academic plan and vision, not just for our high schools, but for our district as we're moving forward, that I would love to see. I do think that that is helpful when we come to decisions like these so that we can see what are the additional programs that are hopeful or wishing or developing partnerships that we can't announce yet, but we as trustees know when they're coming, so that we can see what's going in at Travis and what's going in at Anderson and what's going in at LBJ and what's going in at Crockett. I think that is helpful for us as trustees as we're asked to plan budgets and to plan other things like that. Now, and as far as the specific question, back to Bowie, was the intention behind, I'm going to kind of go into a parent mode, if you will, behind asking us to do this vote now was to give students the opportunity to have this on their choice sheets in February?
The idea was to start the process for the school to start looking at choice sheets and such. But as I'm hearing tonight, we don't have to do that right now. Baylor Scott and White and us, we will get back with and provide the plan, the overall scheme of all of the programming, and bring that back to you in writing. And if you need me before you, that's fine to do that. So that's not an issue.
So is this particular program, as you said, it's one of multiple that we're looking to implement at other schools. Is the one at Bowie the only one that you see potentially having a soft launch next year, or and I'm not trying to hold you to a time because I understand that you're doing those negotiations now, but just trying to understand the timing of these partnerships that you've already spoken of. Is this something that we would see even next month as a potential for soft opening at another school, or is the Bowie one the only one that we're talking about?
I think the best way to answer that is providing, I have a document that outlines the opening of each of the programs potentially and the potential partners, and I think that would do it. In this case, because we were anticipating that we could move quickly and start the program, you would do a soft launch and providing the basic level of a principles of health science course in the beginning in preparation for a program to open a year later. If that's not the will, that we could do it another way. But I think that, I know that once I provide that schedule of openings and where the programs will be, that might shed some light into the overall plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Singh, and then Trustee Wagner. I'm sorry, Trustee Singh, then Trustee Ellens, and Trustee Wagner.
Okay, so couple more thoughts came to mind. One was so thank you. I want to thank Trustee Tai for sort of bringing up what we're actually voting on. It's good to start with the basics. And I think maybe as I read through this more closely, I think what's giving me pause is just that this is assigned to a particular school, when there are others that have needs. as well. And I know you've got more going on. And so in my mind, I feel like I just need some more information. I need more information before even, to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to approve a letter of intent if just to do, I mean, I don't know if we don't even have all the information yet. I'm speaking for myself. I want to know like what the cost is going to be a couple of years out. And when I think about closing the gaps and some of the scorecard metrics that we've been proposing, I think, okay, what's really going to close the gaps and put us in that direction we want even more? Is it going to be having this this awesome health careers program at Bowie, or would it be something else like some of the programs that Trustee Letitia Anderson mentioned in District 1, or investing more in special education, or other things that would really help us meet some of the metrics. So I want to see, so I just kind of want to have more of that strategic conversation. So I would just kind of like to throw out there if maybe we could revisit this in January, and once we get a little bit more information, and maybe that could help. The other question I had, I think that would help with the info gathering for me, would be knowing if Dr. Holly has looked at this. I'm sure she's been very busy with a lot of other stuff, but if any of your staff that is working specifically on equitable curriculum and programming in the district, if they have had a chance to kind of give their 2 cents on this, I would be curious to know what that might be.
I'm sorry, Trustee Ellens.
So I'm finding myself in a similar situation again, that there's a lot of history here that not everybody understands. I know you've been working on Career Launch, which is basically P-TECH, since before you came into this district. Could you give us a little history on, at least, you don't have to go back to before the district, on why we have been going this way, when the strategy started, what the legislature has done recently, things like that, just to get us all in the same education space?
Sure. The way I describe it to people is the reason why you want to do a P-TECH is because the last time that our school system was aligned to colleges and career was 1890, when we built the system to align to the industry of the day, which was factories in the industrial age. And that's why bells go off in schools, in the high schools, and it was to prepare you to sit for long periods of time and to get you ready for that type of workforce. Times have changed, and a lot of students don't see the relevance in their learning because they don't see how what they're doing in the schools truly aligned to the business and industry of what their futures look like. The concept of P-TECH was started in Brooklyn with the idea of realigning the high school, the college experience, and the industry partner driving the change so that everything is aligned, so that students see the relevance and they see the pathway from high school to college to career, so that we're working in concert. In one of the pieces of data that I have researched over time is not only are students, we're losing students when they graduate high school and going into college and then dropping out of college, and if they get out of college even, some students are struggling to find jobs in their own field. And the reason why is that there is not this aligned attempt to teach the skills and the workforce skills and the application of their work in school to really develop them into jobs that are available for them today and in the future. So the concept really is to bring the partners back into the schools, which is right now Seton Ascension, Dell Industries, Technologies, IBM, Austin Board of Realtors, to bring them back to the table.
Where are those?
I'm sorry?
Where are those?
Dell Technologies is at Northeast. Seton Ascension is at LBJ. Austin Board of Realtors will be at Aikens. And I have the, and so the IBM is at Navarro.
So those are the 4 we have today.
Correct.
Trio?
Trio Electric at Navarro as well. Thank you. So the concept here is that it's not just a plan to create career and technical programs and to enhance them so that students have opportunities for work. It is also a change agent to start to look at our structures of school to realign them so that students have better opportunities once they graduate high school and once they graduate from post-secondary plan, whether that be a 2-year or 4-year or a certificate program.
And when did you start this work in Austin?
With the first school of the entrepreneurship program, and then while I was principal at Crockett High.
Thank you. Did anyone go to the CTSBA meeting in December? Okay, so I do want to point out that one of the topics there was workforce education and the work around P-TECH specifically. And one of the things it talks about from our own Sandy Dochin was there from IBM and talked about the 21st century reboot, which is what I hear you saying that we've been doing for a while. And he concluded his statements by saying that if we are going to do the partnerships, there are 3 partners, and they all must be committed. Mm-hmm. So it's not just what we want here. Correct. It is also what the partner wants and what the college wants. So I do think that there are more, this is a little bit different than us just directing the superintendent. There is, when we launched into partnership conversations years ago, that's part of this equation. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. The working in concert with ACC has brought some change. Working with the industry partners has actually opened up some opportunities, not only here but at ACC. For example, cybersecurity, when we first brought it up with Dell, that program was not robust at ACC, and now it is. So these conversations are bearing fruit across and making real change, not just for us. But you are absolutely correct that the 3 entities working together, which we generally did, we get along well and such. But for this kind of deep work, creating coursework and pathways, this is another level of commitment. And that's why it takes a while to get the partners and get the MOUs designed so that these programs are seamless and that can stand the test of time.
And it's my understanding that you actually have started down paths and schools have told you they aren't interested.
That is correct.
So when we land on a partnership agreement, that is the 3 different entities have decided that is what they would like to partner with.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So trustees, any other questions? So having a motion by trustee Antish and a second by trustee Wagner to approve agenda item 8.1. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed and none abstaining. So the motion passes 6, 4, and 3 against. Yeah, 6-3-0. Trustee Tice.
So I just want to be clear, we voted only on the letter of intent.
Correct.
No soft launch.
Right.
Just want to make sure about that. Okay.
No soft launch, letter of intent.
And then we'll bring information on the strategic plan, the entire robust plan around the strategy around high school with early college, high school, and career launch, what that build out is. And then also want to bring back school changes on that option that right now is a yellow. We're bringing that option around pre-K to pre-med. That's why that was so essential. Okay.
Secretary Ellens, now moving to item 13, items for a separate vote. Secretary Ellens, do you have a motion to approve agenda items 3.1, 3.2, and 13.1, agenda item 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3?
Can I just say so moved? I moved to approve items 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
You can add 13.5 on there too.
Yeah, you can combine.
Sorry.
I've been told I have to actually I guess I could do it. That I have to do 13.5
We're
separate.
being told.
I have to do it
Yeah,
separate.
we're being told by board council
Yeah.
13.5 is to be done separately. So we have a motion on 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3, and it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Having a motion by Secretary Ellens and a second by Trustee Teich to approve agenda item 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion passes by all
No,
those.
it doesn't.
I'm sorry. All those, if I could do this one more time. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, all those abstaining. So the vote passes 8-4-0 against, and showing Trustee Wagner abstaining from that vote. Vice President Anderson, do I have a motion to approve agenda item 13.4?
Yes, I move that we approve consent agenda item 13.4.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this item, trustees? Having a motion by Vice President Cindy Anderson and a second by Trustee Teich to approve agenda item, bless you, agenda item 13.4. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, all those abstaining. So the motion passes 8-0-1 with Trustee, with Secretary Amber Ellens abstaining. Secretary Ellens, do you have a motion to approve agenda item 13.5?
So I move that the Austin Independent School District authorize the use of the power of eminent domain to acquire a fee simple interest in 2.77 acres of land owned in part by the city of Austin, Texas, and located at 8601 Tallwood Drive, Austin, Travis County, Texas, and being a portion of a 5.51 acre tract of land described in a deed to the city of Austin, recorded in volume 5274, page 2339, Deed Records of Travis County, Texas, for the modernization, reconstruction, and expansion of the Hill Elementary School campus. My motion to approve agenda item 13.5 includes approval of the proposed resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Ashe, is there any discussion on this item?
Yes.
Trustee Ashe?
I was just wondering if we could have some clarification from Dr. Cruz and/or your staff. As I know that this is a process this is not the first time this process has taken place, nor will it be the last, given our bond projects. And so I was just wondering if there could be some explanation around that.
Okay. Let me invite our Chief Business Officer, Nicole Conley, to bring some detail that we can. Some of it was maybe coming later on, but just maybe just a couple of clarifying comments on this one. Ms. Conley.
Thank you. Good evening. So this is a strategy that we've been working with the City of Austin on in order to effectuate the implementation of our bond projects across various projects. So we've already done this for Dawson Norman, and we expect to advance a similar action for Lucy Reed. And so this just helps us implement the bond projects. It helps us acquire the necessary property to implement the full projects.
Thank you. Trustees, any other questions? Trustee Tice.
I think it'd be helpful for the public to understand why there is some disagreement over this piece of land. Could you describe what the disagreement area of disagreement is?
Well, there's an interpretation difference between how the city sort of suggests that it can sort of convey property. It says because it is parkland, some of the legal the attorneys have sort of fared wayly conservative in their interpretation, and meaning that in order to convey the property, they would have to go back to voters. There's a preclusion from advancing or conveying property that they consider parkland. So in order for us to acquire the additional property, the City of Austin and the district have agreed that we would invoke our eminent domain rights in order to access that additional property to carry out the project. So it's a technicality based upon legal interpretation of the requirements for conveying parkland.
Do we have other schools and properties where this has come up before in the past? I think
So we've done this action with Doss and Norman,
okay.
And Lucy Reed will require similar action.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Trustees, any other questions? Having a motion by Secretary Ellens and a second by Trustee Ashe to approve agenda item 13.5. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed, all those abstaining. Okay. The vote passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention, showing Trustee Wagner. Mm-hmm.
And it's just Patricia Anderson off the dais.
Yep, that's 7 in favor. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. 0 opposed and Trustee Wagner abstaining. We now move to public testimony for items under the superintendent's report. This is a new part of our regular voting meeting agenda to enable persons wishing to provide testimony for items posted for action or discussion and possible action to provide their input. We will retain discretion over the order in which items are called, and tonight we had 0 people signed up to speak. So I'm going to save all of that. So we will not be having any public testimony tonight on this item. And we will move to the last item on our agenda under the superintendent's report, naming process for new Southwest Elementary and new Blazer Relief Campus.
So President Rodriguez and board members, what we're asking for in this particular item is to direct administration to move forward with the naming process for the new Southwest Elementary School and for Blazer Relief. While those are certainly endearing names, I think they want to be known as something other than Blazer Relief and New Southwest Elementary School. So what we want to do is we would follow our usual process using Campus Advisory Council and membership of those schools to begin to create a committee to review names. We also have in our board policy that through Renee Tejas and DCCE department, we'll review the names and then we will bring those names forward given that they are also aligned with district policy. So at this point, we are just asking for authorization to then start that process for the naming of these 2 new sites, which will open in the 2020-2021 school year.
Secretary Ellens, do you have a motion to approve agenda item 15.1?
I do, but then I also have a question and discussion. So
Sure.
I make a motion to approve item 15.1.
There's a second, Trustee Wagner. Is there any discussion? I know Trustee Ellens, you had a question.
So I was just, if you read the information, I know you're calling Blazer Relief, but it's also referred to as a K-8 program. So do they need another name? Or could it just be Blazer for all of it? Or is there something they could discuss?
Certainly that can be reviewed with the CAC at Blazer. In this particular school, it is about relief for the school. We also talked about building out to 6th grade. Right now that school is over 100%. I don't remember Beth, I look at Beth with numbers, Beth Wilson over here, but they're well over 100%, 130, 140%, over 160. I feel like I'm playing Price is Right? Higher, more, well over enrolled. And so this was part of the plan that we call Blazer Relief because it was to begin other grade levels at that school. And so we actually broke ground for this school this summer. So we did want to look at having another name for the school, but it's something we will bring through the CAC, but it's at least having that conversation with the Campus Advisory Council at Blazier.
Okay. So that would be an option, to just call it Blazier, and Blazier would be a K-8 school.
Oh, the complete Blazier.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't built that for the school, so I guess it could be that we call it
that's up
Blazier
to them.
K-8. Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've talked about doing K-8 or 6 through 12 in different ways. I mean, you're doing it. It feels like you could take steps toward solidifying what that looks like, and then, whoops, my Santa fell. And then helping people understand how that model might be something other schools might embrace.
Right.
So just throwing it out there as if that wasn't even an option.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Ashley.
Well, Trustee Ellens, I think you must have read my mind. That was actually my question, as it kind of relates back to the facility master plan, because I know originally the facility master plan kind of stated that the Blazier Relief School was going to hold, I believe, is it grades 3 through 5, or what you? I can't remember what was in the facility
4,
master
5,
plan.
6.
4, 5, 6. But then it would eventually transition to a junior high. I don't know if it said K-8 in the facility master plan. I actually do not have that committed to memory. And so I was just kind of, I was, if we're using it initially as an extension of Blazier, if you will, I had some concerns that it might cause some confusion, that they're not actually a part of Blazier, when I think that that actually is the intent, for them to still be considered one community just in 2 buildings. And so just wanted some clarification around that.
I believe for this, yes, it's within one community, but I believe on this one it was up to grade 6. I don't think it has a full build out of the entire campus. So that would actually be for another bond. So right now it would not be able to be a complete middle school. It has the infrastructure is being built with the infrastructure for it, but it's not being built out for a full middle school. So if I remember, I think it was grades 4, 5, and 6.
So, but the plan, as I heard you say just a second ago, was that the CAC will be able to make the distinction whether they want to just be one Blazier located in 2 buildings, or if they want to have separate names for the, I'm going to call it an intermediate school, because that's actually what I had in my small East Texas town, that they would move into that school before moving into junior high.
And it could be something that they call Blazier primary and Blazier intermediate, but not yet as a full middle school, or not a pre-K-8 model. That we don't have the capacity, because we're not building the type of space that's needed to hold a middle school or to conduct middle school curriculum.
And is there a chance that, so if we, okay, I'm going way down a rabbit hole, and I apologize. I'm just trying to make sure I understand. If we do eventually move it to a junior high campus, or it would include a junior high, would we then have to go through the renaming process again? Does that make sense?
I don't think that the board would have to go through a renaming process. No, I do not think that the board would have to do something like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
As long as it's not called a pre-K-8, because it would not have grade 6, grade 7, and 8. Nor does it have either the capacity or to be able to teach the content, lab space, and things like that.
Dr. Cruz, I have a few questions. The new Blazier Relief Campus doesn't have boundaries to it right now. So who would be on the team to make the recommendations for naming process? Or are you saying that the CAC at Blazier will be the naming committee?
That's correct. The CAC at Blazier would have that, because it's still within the Blazier community. We're not expanding those boundaries.
So there's no plans to change boundaries?
Not in this particular case.
For the new Blazier Relief Campus?
No, this is just about significant overcrowding. This was probably our elementary school that had the most significant overcrowding. I want to say it was 168%, and now it's probably a little bit less than that, but nonetheless, it was been pretty significant.
Okay. Secretary Ellens.
So I did just want to point out that policy does provide an avenue for others to submit suggestions, including trustees.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you have thoughts or ideas, what do we do?
Yes, so board members can submit names. We also put out our names. We put out a information on our website so that folks just, from anywhere can also submit names. At the end of the day, it is the board's decision. These are names that are reviewed, so we do review names to make sure that they're aligned to board policy. At the end of the day, it is a board decision. The board is not then directing the staff to come up with the names or anything else. It is completely a board decision. This is then allows for some guidance and also for some input from community membership. But this is the board's authority to name a facility or even part of a facility.
Thank you, trustees. Any other questions? There are no other questions. Having a motion by Secretary Ellens and a second by Trustee Wagner to approve agenda item 15.1. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion passes by all those on the dais. Secretary Ellens, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Having a motion by Trustee Ellens and a second by Trustee Cindy Anderson to adjourn. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And the motion passes by all those on the dais. The meeting is now adjourned at 10:49 p.m. Thank you.